I call the meeting of the Cleveland Heights University Heights Board of Education to order. Mr. Gaynor, would you call the roll?
Mr. Posh. Here. Mr. Register.
Here.
Mr. Silverman. Here. Ms. Wright.
Here.
Mr. Zucker.
Here.
Okay. So did everybody get enough punch and cake? And congratulations, retirees. I think we're going to recognize each one of you individually, but congratulations. So the second thing we need to do is to approve minutes from April 18th, May 2nd, May 8th, and May 17th. So I'll take a motion to approve all those minutes.
So moved. Second.
Any discussions, corrections, commentary? Mr. Gaynor, would you call the roll?
Mr. Posh.
Yes.
Mr. Register.
Yes.
Mr. Silverman.
Yes.
Ms. Wright.
Yes.
Mr. Zucker.
Yes.
Okay, and we want to move to awards and recognitions. So I'll turn it over to the superintendent.
Good evening, everyone. I would first like to start by recognizing Mrs. Marguerite Gilbert, who is our musician tonight and she's 95 years old. You stand up, please. And did a fantastic job. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. So with the school year coming to a close, I'm proud to recognize many students and educators tonight for their recent accomplishments. First, we have a number of award-winning artists to recognize. These students have received accolades from local and state organizations this school year for their amazing talents. Students, when I read your name, please come up and receive a small gift from Board President Ron Register to show our appreciation for your great work. Beginning first with our elementary school honorees, the following students had their work selected for the Northeast Ohio Youth Art Month exhibition. So Grant Gosa, if Grant could come up. He won Best of Show. Just stand here. Ryan Harris. Ryan. And Ayana Jones. Ayana Jones. Is she here? Okay. Is Ayana here? Okay. So we had two students had their work displayed at the Ohio Youth Art Month show. Emma Gann, is Emma here? And McKenna Mack. McKenna, is McKenna here? Okay. So I'd also like to mention that Grant, McKenna, Ryan, and Emma all had their work displayed at this year's Creative Heights District Art Show, and they are all students of Miss Ida Bergson. Could you come up, please? And let's give them a round of applause. So we're going to move along to our high school artists. Oh, let's give her another round of applause. Thank you, guys. I guess we're not doing a good job giving them directions. The following students won awards ranging from honorable mention to gold portfolios at this year's Cuyahoga County Scholastics Art Competition. Please come up when I say your name. Shannon Burr. Shannon's here. Louis Covalt. Jenna Dent. David Mattia. David, all right. Tyler McDowell. Lisa Ware. And Gilda Weinstock. We also had several students whose work was displayed and won awards at the Cleveland Clinic Expression exhibitions. And it was Jacob Butner. This button, is Jacob here? Robin Lynch and Gilda Weinstock again. And finally, we recognize Jacob, whose work was chosen for the Ohio House of Representatives Student Art Exhibition. And they're all students of Ms. Laura Scahan, Nancy Eisenberg, Clara Rack, and Hillary Namchek. Art teachers, please come forward, please, and take a picture with our students. Only Nancy is here. Okay, so we get a picture. Okay. Okay, so our sheriff deputies. So moving along with our recognitions, it's hard to believe, but Heights High School has reached the end of its 2-year stay here on the Wiley campus. We could not have made this period of transition work without the support of our community. We're lucky to have 10 officers with the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department on site to keep everything running safely and smoothly, especially during drop-off and pickup times. These officers created strong, trusting relationships with students and staff. Gentlemen, as I say your name, please join me up front to receive a certificate and be recognized. First, we have Lieutenant Gary Krall. Lieutenant Jean Gerser. Lieutenant Dave Solomon. Deputies Homer Allen. James Piger. And they were all under the direction of the Sheriff, Clifford Pinckney. So he was a Heights grad, if you come on up. He was inducted to the Hall of Fame, I think, last year. So again, thank you all. We're going to miss you. I didn't recognize several of them in their, they told me they were undercover tonight in their suits. But it was so nice. You made this transition wonderful, your presence, and as you help people enter the campus and exit the campus, and even help our students cross the street at the various intersections. It was a wonderful collaboration, and we were so excited to have you. And thank you again, Sheriff Pinckney, for making this happen for our district. Let's give them another round of applause. So now I would like to recognize our before and after care staff who are here tonight. These individuals played an important role in our elementary schools and developed close bonds with our students and families that they served. We hope that many will decide to stay on with us as the Right at School team as we prepare for our new programming next year. As I say your name, please join me up front to receive a certificate of appreciation. First, we have Robin Barrett, Michelle Carter, Paris Holmes, Harvetta Jordan, Yolanda Knox Taylor, Vanessa McFarland, and Sabrina Ali. Did I get everyone? Did I miss anyone? Come on, oh, okay, come on up. I'm sorry, I had all the names, but everyone didn't check in. So come on, let me call it. I've called the names. Erica Davis, Sheila Gibson, Brandon is not here, LaShonda Horton, Tabitha Irving, Maria Johnson, Andrea Lang, Dominique Moore, Shirley Morgan, Kiara Nelson, Robin Platter, Shahanda Rahim, Marquita Rogers. Oh, Melanice Walker. Come on up. She's been in the program since it started. Eula Watson, Teresa Williams. Did I get everyone that time? Come on up. See? And all the ladies left, but we wanted to get a picture. Can you all come back up until we get a picture, please? Thank you. So finally, we recognize and celebrate tonight our dedicated staff who have been with us for many years and who leave behind a rich legacy as they retire from the district. The teachers and staff we salute tonight have poured their souls into their work and have positively impacted the lives of many students. I'll now hand over this portion of the recognition to our esteemed staff member, Dr. Paul Lombardi, who is the Assistant Superintendent of HR and Operations. Okay. All right. Okay. You want me to stay up here?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Dixon, and good evening, everyone. Oh, it was nice. Before I get started, I do want to thank Kim Ehrlich from our HR department and Kathan Kavanaugh in communications for putting together the programs, the refreshments, and AVI for providing the refreshments as well. So if we can give them a round of applause for putting all this on for you. We are here tonight to honor those who are retiring from our district, those who have dedicated their careers to educating our students and work tirelessly to make a difference in the lives of others. It truly is an honor to be an educator, and it is a distinction that lives on beyond retirement. I'm sure it goes without saying that our retirees will continue to make a difference in the lives of people they come in contact with each day. Please accept this token of our appreciation as we recognize service to the district and most importantly to our students. If you can hold your applause to the end, because I want to read something on each person. Please come up when you hear your name and receive congratulations from Board President Ron Register and Superintendent Dr. Dixon, and we will have a plaque for you. All right? So the first person is Brian Burdine, Boulevard Elementary School, a physical education teacher, additional schools served, Canterbury, Cleveland Heights High School, Coventry, Fairfax, Garrity, Noble, Oxford, Roxborough Elementary, Taylor Academy, and 31 years in the district. Yeah. All right, Dulcie Devitt, Canterbury Elementary School, Meta Ancillary Schools, Cleveland Heights High School, Delisle, Oxford, and 20 years in the district. Sally Hanrahan, Garrity Professional Development School, Preschool Intervention Specialist, school served, Milliken and Noble, 19 years in the district. We have Susan Miracle, Roxborough Elementary, second grade teacher, 23 years in the district. Leon Napier, Roxborough Elementary School, security monitor, school served, Cleveland Heights High School, Delisle, Roxborough Middle School, Wiley, 17 years in the district. Mary Riley, district-wide occupational therapist, 8 years in the district. Jeannie Wagner, Cleveland Heights High School, Roxborough Middle School, school psychologist, Other schools served: Belfair, Board of Education, Oxford, Monticello, Roxborough Middle School, 22 years in the district. Marvin Watson, Belfair, school counselor. Other schools served: Cleveland Heights High School, Monticello, Wiley, 35 years in the district. Charlene Allen, Noble Elementary School cleaner. School served: Garrity, Monticello, Wiley, 12 years in the district. Linda Brooks, district bus driver, 25 years in the district. Deborah Brainerd, Board of Education, Roxborough Elementary School, staff assistant, 30 years in the district. Denise Buttram, Board of Education, staff assistant, accounts payable, 25 years in the district. Kimberly Ehrlich, Board of Education, confidential staff assistant in Human Resources, 12 years in the district. Diane Featherson, Roxborough Middle School, food service assistant cook, 16 years in the district. Connie Gillen, Canterbury Elementary School, special education aide, school served Board of Education, Boulevard, Cleveland Heights High School, Fairfax, 30 years in the district. Laverta Head McLean, Boulevard Elementary School, for food service assistant cook, Cleveland Heights High School, 12 years in the district. Tyrone Jackson, Noble Elementary School, head custodian, 29 years in the district. Isaac Jones, bus driver, district employee, 12 years in the district. Eileen Lynette, Board of Education, staff assistant tuition, other schools served, Cleveland Heights High School, Monticello, Oxford, 35 years in the district. Shirley Morgan, Canterbury Elementary School, before care lead, 9 years in the district. Bruce McClellan, Oxford Elementary School, assistant custodian, other schools, Canterbury, Monticello, Noble, Oxford, 19 years in the district. Donna Ritchie, Canterbury Elementary School, lunchroom supervisor, 22 years in the district. Marcita Stewart, Heights High School, food service assistant cook, other schools served, Monticello, 19 years in the district. Minnie Thomas, Heights High School, food service assistant cook, other schools served, Wiley, and 18 years in the district. And finally, Melanice Walker, Boulevard Elementary School. Okay, yeah. Before and after lead. Lunchroom supervisor, also served at Fairfax, 24 years in the district. I'd like to congratulate everyone, and if you can stay for a picture.
Okay. Thank you for your service. And I see you guys want to get out of here, huh?
They're done.
I can't blame you. So we'll give you a minute, and then we'll get on with the rest of our business. You know, sometimes in this business that we're in, things happen. And sometimes we have important people to stop by and visit with us just to let us know that their presence is felt. So I believe I saw former County Commissioner, State Senator and Representative, I believe, Peter Lawson Jones. And hanging out with, in that general area, of former board member Eric Coble, and noted local playwright. So we're glad to have both of you. Okay, we're going to move on to statements from the audience, and we have quite a few. I just want to remind everybody that generally we give 5 minutes for your statements, and we'll pretty much hold you to that. And we'll give you maybe a 30-second warning or something to that effect. The first person I have is Joey Bauer. Come to the podium, state your name, your address.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joey Bauer. I'm a resident of Mayfield Heights. However, 99% of my family were born and went to school and lived in Cleveland Heights, so I think I've earned my credential. I'm here to ask all of you, and especially the honorable people on the board, to look favorably upon renewing the lease on Coventry School, in particular Ensemble Theatre, which is my second family, having moved here from California just a little while ago. It's not only a hub of commerce and culture in Cleveland Heights, but for a long, long time, it's been a home for many of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ari Klein, who wants to speak about dignity.
Good evening. My name is Ari Klein. I'm president of the Cleveland Heights Teachers Union. Mr. Registered, members of the Board of Education, the Cleveland Heights Teachers Union has a member that your administration plans to terminate. I requested a chance to speak to you in executive session to explain the situation, and that our belief is that there are other ways of resolving this issue. We believe when an employee who is not functioning in his or her position due to a documented health condition, that it should be our collective responsibility to make things better, not worse. We question why the district is unwilling to partner with us as we pursue disability retirement so that our member, your employee, can retain at least a modicum of dignity in what has been a degrading and tiring situation. I ask that you consider delaying any action towards termination and direct your administration to take steps to resolve the issue by respecting our members' health status.
Okay. Next, we have Julie Aarons. Is that Aarons? Aarons, okay. On Coventry School.
Hi, like Joey Bauer, my parents went to Heights High School. My mother is 93, and she still has lunch with some of her classmates every single Saturday. They also have kids in my class at Shaker, so we have a great heritage of Heights High School in my family. I believe that the culture of a community is probably the most important part of that community. And I'm a little humbled by the educators here because educators know the value of the arts to their students. We had some incredibly talented young people here whose art I couldn't even color a picture from a coloring book that looked that good. My art teachers used to have heart failure when I came in. But speaking about the Ensemble Theatre, years and years ago I was on the board. I learned about theater right in this building at Wiley Junior High School with the Children's Theater here. I had my birthday parties here. So theater has been an important part of my life, since I was 5, 6, 7 years old. So I know the value of the theater, and asking a company to move or to lose their lease is not only the movement of a theater, which is hard to do, But the ensemble is a professional company for the most part. People from the ensemble have worked in the theater a majority of their life, and if not, they've been involved in the theater for most of their life. They caught the bug when they were young, and they still have it. I live in Mayfield Heights also, but I know people from Highland Heights, from University Heights, from Garfield Heights, from all over the East Side who come to see live theater at the ensemble. Live theater is a tremendous addition to a child's learning. It's something that they don't get to see very often, unless you live in New York or Chicago or Los Angeles or San Francisco. You don't have an opportunity as a young person to really see live theater. And the value of live theater is not like a movie. It's not like sitting in a dark room watching a big screen and seeing people who shoot their scenes in little bits and pieces. Live theater is people who learn their lines, who rehearse for 5 or 6 weeks at a time, who relate to each other, who give us a thrill of going to live theater, and there is nothing better. There is nothing more exciting to a child or to an adult. And so for the ensemble to have to move or leave your city, it also deprives the neighborhood of commerce. There's restaurants and bars and places people go before and after the theater that also lose their people. And as I said, it's your culture. This is not a new thing for Cleveland Heights. This is not a new thing at all. My mother went to Boulevard. My father went to Roxborough. My father and mother used to take me to the Davis Cups over at Roxborough. So my history with Cleveland Heights and the arts and the history of this city are so meaningful. So I ask you to support us, to tell your friends to support us, and to recognize the value of the education of live theater in Cleveland Heights, University Heights. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jack Palance. He wants this in the record.
Thank you. My name is Jack Palance. I live at 3021 Yorkshire Road. I've been a resident of Cleveland Heights for more than 50 years, and I'm a proud graduate of Cleveland Heights High School, class of 1966. As a member of Ensemble Theater's board, I was one of the Coventry School tenants who met on May 30th with Board of Education President Ron Register and Board Member Jim Posh, Director of Business Service and Operations George Petcack, and Supervisor of Communications Scott Wortman. We met separately on June 2nd with a Cleveland Heights Council member and a staff member, and spoke at their public meeting last night. Coventry School tenants requested these meetings to share our concerns about the school district's intent to place us on month-to-month leases, first communicated on May 9th, and its planned partnership with the City of Cleveland Heights to find a developer for the Coventry School site, announced May 23rd. At our June 2nd meeting, Council Member Mary Dunbar accurately summarized the Coventry School tenants' 3 requests. First, 1-year leases. Second, explore developing Coventry School as an arts and cultural center. Third, Coventry School tenants will play a meaningful role in the conversation. We appreciate your assurances of a transparent, creative, and inclusive process going forward, and we welcome our neighbors' participation. As part of the public record, I submitted a folder containing documents supporting the economic and social benefits of the Coventry School tenants, as well as arts and cultural organizations and centers around the country. I will email these documents to school board members and staff, so be forewarned. You're going to get a big email tomorrow. Among these documents is a spreadsheet detailing the Coventry School tenants' economic contributions. With combined budgets of more than $3 million per year, Coventry School tenants withhold payroll taxes for 82 employees. Ensemble Theatre and Future Heights alone pay 124 independent contractors. Coventry School tenants engage more than 2,000 volunteers, provide direct services to more than 5,000 people, and affect close to 90,000. And then there's the synergy with the Coventry Peace Playground and Park, the Coventry branch of Heights Libraries, and the Coventry SID. Tonight, Coventry School tenants will describe how their organizations contribute to our beloved community's economic and social strength, the uncertainty, disruption, and expense unnecessarily imposed by month-to-month leases and forced relocation, and our desire to explore developing Coventry School as an arts and cultural center as recommended by the district's 2008 Coventry School Study Committee report. We are your willing and cooperative partners in this process. Last night, Cleveland Heights City Council approved Resolution 68-2017, authorizing the city manager to execute a non-binding letter of intent with the school district about their partnership relating to the sale of Coventry School. This train is leaving the station, and we don't want to be railroaded, so let's get everyone on board. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next, we have Evie Morris.
Between Dr. Dixon and I, there's a big difference. Is that good? Woo, that's way good. My name is Evie Rosen Morris. I live at 3033 Edge Hill Road, a few houses down from the illustrious Mr. Coble, I'm happy to say. Between lunch, study hall, and detention, I spent a lot of time in this room between 1962 and 1965. I'm a proud graduate of Cleveland Heights High School, class of 65. All three of my children have gone there, and so far I have two granddaughters. One graduated, and one is going to be at Heights next year in the 10th grade, so we're committed. When it was time to build a Coventry Peace playground, I was a part, my youngest daughter, who is 29 now, was in the first grade, and we were very involved. As a musician, I wish I could roll the piano over, it would make my life a lot easier, but I'll sing a cappella for you, which I know is different. But this is my presentation tonight, my words to you. I would really like you to listen to the words of the song I wrote when we were done building the playground, the Coventry Peace Playground song. It goes like this. Seems like only yesterday some people had a dream to build a place of peace and love and joy. So with many different talents, they said, now we will begin. We're gonna build a dream right here for everyone. We're gonna build a dream right here for everyone. And it's a peace playground, and it shows what can be done when we come together working for a dream. It took 1,000 hands to build it, but our hearts and minds were one. And it's standing here today at Coventry. It's standing here today for you and me. So the people set upon their course with much work to be done, to plant the seed and then to help it grow. And like a mighty ship at sea, no one could sail alone. They had to work as one so they could reap what they would sow. They had to work as one to reap what they could sow. We'll skip the chorus. Then step by step and brick by brick, the dream began to live. New dreamers came along to join the few, and it really was amazing what the people had to give. Once they believed they'd make their dream come true. Once they believed they'd make their dream come true. We'll remind you. And it's a peace playground, and it shows what can be done when we come together working for a dream. It took 1,000 hands to build it, but our hearts and minds were one. Now it's standing here today at Coventry. It's standing here today for you and me. And then the time for building came, the fall of '93. The call went out for help of every kind, and the dreamers saw their dream and turn into reality. In the sun or rain, the people didn't mind. In the sun or rain, the people didn't mind. And when the work was finally done, a wonder to be seen. The joy was shared with folks from all around, but the greatest joy by far for those who helped to build the dream was the friendship and the fellowship we found. Made that up. Was the friendship and the fellowship we found. Now the lessons that we've learned from this are greater than you see. For each of us, there's work that we can do. If you want a world of peace and hope, you've got to have a dream. And together we can make that dream come true. And together we can make that dream come true. Hum along. 'Cause it's a peace playground and it shows what can be done when we come together working for a dream. We took 1,000 hands to build it, but our hearts and minds were one. Now it's standing here today at Coventry. It's standing here today for you and me. Don't take my time. Last thing I want to say is that my musical career started in this building with Vince Patty, my vocal music teacher, who took me down to meet Jerry Leonard one day and said, here. And I was a musical director starting at the age of 14 with Jerry Leonard right there. Vince taught me how to be an accompanist and a musical director. My career started here. I am a living proof of this is my career, this is my life. And the other thing I do is at Urban Oak School, one of the tenets, I'm the accompanist every week for the eurythmia class. And I can tell you the magic that it has done for those children. And music, as Susie Kaiser says, changes lives. Please leave the playground, work with these people, leave this building and all the full tenants who are there. Thank you.
Next, we have Kimberly Dyer, Field Trips Nature Center.
Good evening, everyone. That is an impossible thing to follow, so I appreciate your talent. I will not sing, and you'll be more appreciative that I will not be singing. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Kimberly Dyer. I am a 23-year resident here in the Cleveland Heights. I'm the proud parent of 3 Heights students, 2 are recent graduates. 1 will be heading to the new high school quite eagerly to begin his junior year. My reason for joining you this evening is to offer my support of continuing field trips, specifically to the Nature Center. For those of you not familiar, the Nature Center at Shaker Lakes is a 50-year entity just across Fairmount Boulevard, located in Shaker. Pardon me. The Nature Center is a true partner in providing exceptional experiential learning programs that support and enhance the classroom experiences for all of Cleveland Heights elementary programs. The Nature Center is in full alignment with the goals and the curriculum of the Cleveland Heights, University Heights elementary schools. Each of our programs has been a collaboration, not merely a service provided by a vendor. The teachers from Cleveland Heights, University Heights work with our naturalists and our educators at the Nature Center to ensure that programs not only meet the state and local curriculums, but serve as a support done in the classroom. Currently, Cleveland Heights, University Heights children, 2,000 students get to experience these programs. Beyond field trip experiences comes the immeasurable and the intangible. This is where the return of investment may be making our community, may not be seen for years. This is when our elementary school students turn into biology class majors, high school chemistry stars, college and graduate schools areas starting in the STEM programs. Each year, numerous Cleveland Heights students return to the Nature Center every year to volunteer, to gain their volunteer hours, to complete requirements to earn their Eagle Scout ranks, and to complete their senior projects. I know this because I've raised 3 children who've done just that. Recently, I want to share a story with you. The Nature Center had a chaperone accompany our 3rd grade classroom on our what we call our Monarchs field experience. The parent was so very impressed by the experience that later on he approached a teacher and asked to donate a scholarship money so that this student could attend summer camp at the Nature Center's programs. Even though this parent is no longer have a child in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade, he continues to sponsor a program and a student every year for the last 5 years. I believe this speaks volumes to the quality of our programming from a parent's point of view. As a fellow board member, because I am actually the chair of the board at the Nature Center, I completely understand the obligations that each of you has for your financial responsibility to seek the best value for services from each of the partnerships you enter into. And for those of you here who've never experienced it, I invite you to personally come to the Nature Center. We have beautiful trails. We have beautiful areas that have all different habitats: lakes, streams, marshes, fields, ravines, and forests. We have a true gem in our backyard. Come listen to children squeal and giggle while they learn the names of all the critters that live in our backyard. And while our school programs have concluded for the year, I welcome you to visit the fall trails when the school will resume, and I encourage you to please consider these details when you are evaluating the budget for any field trips you're considering. Thank you for your time this evening.
Next, we have Angel Fasolo, District Changes and Transparency.
Hi, my name's Angel Fasolo. I'm at 3113 Edge Hill. I'm a class of 94 Heights grad and a parent of a student at Rox L right now. I have to say, I know everybody up here pretty much knows how I feel about a lot of things going on in the district because I actively write when I have concerns. And now I'm at the point where we have 5 minutes to speak, and I'm thinking, do I have 5 minutes to speak about every single one of my concerns? So I'm going to kind of boil it really down right now and say, from the point of view of a parent and a resident and an alum, the amount of changes and the rate of changes in the district right now is becoming overwhelming. To try to keep track of the changes going on in this district and to know what to expect from year to year for our children, as a parent, as staff members, as residents, as community members, it starts to become almost more trouble than it's worth. And that's hard to say when you're convincing a husband to move to Cleveland Heights and we're gonna come back to Cleveland Heights and that's where we're gonna raise our family. And we're gonna have a family coming back to Cleveland Heights High School. The rate of change, the amount of change, and the transparency is key. It seemed as though this entire year, and actually the later half of this year, parents were getting hit with one change after another. And we don't always know what the answer or what the conclusion is going to be to the proposed changes. And that makes it very hard to plan what you're going to do as a family, as a parent. So when you're trying to tell your student what kind of expectations you have, what kind of future they're going to have at their school, it's very hard when there's staffing changes, when you don't know what the changes that are going to be to gifted, when there's grade reconfigurations, when you don't know which building may or may not remain open or close. And you just have these question marks. And you enter into schooling for your child with a set of expectations, and I understand things change, and I understand students and parents and staff and the entire community needs to be resilient, but at a certain point, there's too much, and we need to be part of the process. We're finding these things out after decisions are made, after aftercare and before care privatization occurred, staffing changes, swapping principals, changes to facilities. It seems like we keep writing the checks to you guys, and you're not involving us in the process. And when you do involve us in the process, it seems after the fact and to kind of keep us busy while you make the decisions and decide for us what's best for us, as opposed to turning to us, turning to the staff. And as parents, I actually would like to turn to the staff in the buildings a lot more than we do. I'd like the board and central office to start listening to the staff throughout the district and to listen to the community and not always look toward a consultant or what they just believe might be best just because they seem to have the power to do it. We have too many changes. We don't have enough information, and we are not part of the process enough. I'm asking that you consider that and to become transparent.
I believe this is Brady Dendia. Is that right? Didia. Okay, all right. I hear you.
My name is Brady Dindia. I'm the board president of Artful. I'm a resident of University Heights, have been for almost 13 years. I live at 3801 Westwood. So as I mentioned, I'm the board president of Artful, and I come here tonight after having a few weeks to digest the news and meet with certain people and become more informed and educated on what this is. I pretty much come here tonight on behalf of myself, my 9-person board, and the 18 artists that we work with in our space. And I hope that you will listen to what our friends in the space, like Ensemble and Lake Erie Inc., are saying. You guys are essentially a nonprofit institution. You would find it very difficult to conduct business, educate your students, if you were told you're going to a month-to-month lease and you're only going to have a 30-day notice. So I don't know what power you have at this point, as the process has begun for you to transfer the school over to the city. I would beg of you to use any power that you do have to consider our business plans. We are personally a brand new entity. We opened our doors in that building in March. We were expecting about 100 people at our opening. We had well over 400 people at our opening. We started building in January. What we have learned now is that these talks had started in January. We may have thought out our plan differently, probably held back on some of the investment we made, which was very difficult to raise. But we're there, and we're committed, and we love the building. We love our neighbors. We have a partnership starting with Ensemble. We're hoping to work with Lake Erie Inc. We're hoping to work with the school district. We're one of the sponsors of the Heights Art Show. We help bring that back, and look at the amazing work these students do. What Artful hopes to do, and what Artful is already doing, is helping when those kids grow up and they start looking for a place to live after college or when they're raising their families. They go, cool, Cleveland Heights is so different, it's so diverse, it's so supportive of the arts. We hope to retain these young kids for years to come in this district and their parents, and we want to give people a reason to come here. I have a few points here, if you'll indulge me for just a couple more minutes. We did a ton of research when we were looking into starting up Artful. The biggest, I don't want to say surprise, but one of the most comforting facts we discovered was that Cleveland Heights is home to more artists than any other suburb in all of Cuyahoga County. And if you put Shaker Heights and University Heights and Beechwood into that, it is almost 20-something, 30-something% of all artists in Cuyahoga County live in those suburbs. Those artists are currently taking their monies downtown or the near west side. They have a desire and a need to stay in this community, work in this community, sell their product in this community. That's a synergy you don't get very often. That's beneficial to housing prices, it's beneficial to the local businesses, and it's a draw for young people to think about establishing their lives and their families in this area. What we also learned is that a high concentration of the arts in a city leads to higher civic engagement, which I think you saw tonight. What other school board has someone come up and sing a song they wrote a cappella all on their own? Very impressive. It leads to more social cohesion, higher child welfare, and lower crime and poverty rates. We also learned that it sets a place apart as a more interesting place for people who are looking to spend their time, money, and resources in a community. An artistic place resists commodification and sameness and is more likely to have long-term appeal. Cleveland Heights does pretty good at that already. We have found that the Coventry space is an incredible synergy of creativity, thinking, entrepreneurship. So this is something that doesn't happen in most communities as organically as it has happened in this space. It's taken a bit of time, but we're there. The building's full, as I'm sure all of you are aware. So in summary, I feel like I'm dragging on at this point. In summary, I just want to say, and I want to thank George for his help over the last several months. He's been a great partner between us and you guys. What I'd like to say is, at risk of repeating myself, please reconsider. We spoke with City Hall last night. They were surprised by the month-to-month leases. They're going to take their time, they have told us, to look at the RFP, RFQ. They're not ready to rush that out to developers quite yet. If there's anything you can do, please speak with your attorney, their attorney, and advocate for us. Because if you can give us a full year, I truly believe we'll come up with a creative solution that will work for you guys, for the city, for the tenants, for all of your community members, for the kids that you serve. And we've got an incredible amount of talent and creativity in this building, and if you utilize us, we'll be able to help you solve this problem. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Adam Dew, speaking on Rocks Middle.
Thanks for the time. Hi, my name is Adam Dew, 2233 Demington, Fairfax class of 86, Heights 94. Married to an Oxford 89 grad. So happy to moved back here to Cleveland 3-4 years ago to raise my kids here from Chicago. And my kids will be 4th generation Heights High, so we're very excited. No, that's it. I'm also not here to make anyone feel bad for Roxborough or Roxelle. I understand. I'm going to couch everything in that spot right there. But I did send an email to the board this week that I just wanted to come up and sort of reiterate for the record that, and a lot of people here may not know that closing Rocks Middle is heavily on the table right now and continuing to use Wiley. That's my understanding. And if I'm wrong, I'd love to be shut down. Is that okay? Well, anyway. Again, I think that transparency comes into play here again, and I think the community is going to want to know reasons why if you do go through with this, because and you're going to have to sell it hard, because the community around Rocks Middle historically comes out heavy for revenue asks. And so you might be saving some money here, but are you going to be, I'm going to be here for 20 years. Some of you guys I'm going to be here a lot longer than most of you guys are. So I hope that you guys will take neighborhoods into consideration, voting patterns into consideration, and save a penny now, or are you sacrificing something in the future? I just hope you guys take that into consideration.
Thank you. Next, we have Celeste Cosentino. Is that right?
My name is Celeste Cosentino. I do believe that there's a winery in California that is not my family's, unfortunately. I am the Executive Artistic Director of Ensemble Theatre, and I'm just here to speak. We were actually one of the first tenants in the Coventry building, and since I see Terry, I see Amy, I see Rosemary, who's been involved in a lot of the stuff we do. I see George, who I've talked to many, many, many times, the people who were before him too. I see Eric Coble, whose play we've produced. I see Peter Lawson-Jones, whose play we've also produced. I feel like I'm part of a community. I went to Boulevard. It's 3 blocks away from my house. Kane Park is my backyard. I get to walk my dog, and Ziggy Marley is playing. That's pretty cool. The actual Ziggy Marley is playing, which is really neat. I lived in New York for many years. I went to OU, go Bobcats, but came back to Cleveland Heights when my mom, actually in 2009, passed away. She created Ensemble Theatre the year I was born. So technically, it's kind of like my sibling. We have grown. That tells you how old I am. We're in our 38th season. I just told everybody how old I am. And moving forward, we actually moved once, about 10 years ago, to the Coventry Elementary School building. We were in Cleveland Heights. We moved to what used to be the Cleveland Playhouse, and then moved back to Cleveland Heights. And just kind of to sum up what could be a very, very long story, we found a great synergy, and we mentioned these words last night too when we spoke to the city of Cleveland Heights. Organically, community-wise, that building has become a great kind of community of people, assets. I personally, and this is my personal opinion, think that particular corner, and I know that there are many facilities, and I know that the district in no way or shape or form has a huge amount of stuff that they have to deal with that I can't even probably begin to understand, that particular asset is unique in Cleveland Heights, that space that's in front of it. I also work for the Cleveland Museum of Art and have often compared that corner to what we do at the Art Museum. We have a great green space behind us, Wade Oval. We have a great green space in front of us, and would just like to request, and I think that all of the tenants are on the same page. We were really stunned what has happened, how quickly it's happened, and would like to just literally be a part of the conversation moving forward. What that would look like for all of our organizations, just to kind of have a plan. I know that we're trying to figure out strategically what we're doing. We're actually, as an organization, before we found out this information, we're planning our board retreat for this summer to plan our next 10 years. So really, just to be a part of that conversation moving forward, not only as a Cleveland Heights resident, hopefully my future kids will go to Boulevard. I went to Monticello too. Just, to be part of the conversation of what's happening in a community that I've been in for almost all of my life. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Next, we have Christina Cotton.
Good evening. I am probably one of the most newly arrived people here in this room. My daughter is the director of the LGBTQ at Case Western. Her spouse is the registrar at the hospital. And my grandson, Gabriel, will go to Heights. My daughter-in-law's family all went to Heights. So while I am originally from California and have lived in the Mid-Atlantic for years and years, and only recently moved here to South Euclid, to a street that backs upon Euclid Creek and the open space there, I consider myself somehow a secondary, long-time Heights observer, because I have watched you all from afar. When we moved here 1 year ago, after 40 years of teaching, acting, and directing professionally in the nonprofit theater on the West Coast and the Mid-Atlantic area, we moved close to Cleveland Heights. I needed a house that was flatter. And so we didn't move to Cleveland Heights, but we're nearby. In fact, we're only 10 minutes from my daughter's home on Overlook. I immediately set about making connections with the theater community here in Cleveland, and by far the most welcoming theater I found was Ensemble here at Coventry in Cleveland Heights. Ensemble Theatre is a professional theater. They've paid their actors, both equity and non-equity, since their inception in 1979. That's huge. It's incredibly difficult, and it shows how deeply they believe in the artist and his work. There at Ensemble, because I'm so very new, I have been fortunate to be invited, but anybody can go, to Stage Rights, an educational collaborative for playwrights at all levels. This group is free of charge, meets weekly, and is run by experienced professionals. Ensemble offers public readings of Stage Right's new work with feedback along the way, with one fully staged production every year of one or more new plays, locally written. At Stage Rights, I again have a voice. There, I can once again be the artist that I've always been, learning and sharing the artistic understandings that I've gained over 40 years of experience in the theater. People attend the theater to feel less alone in this world. Theater is about making very real connections while creating it and while watching it. The arts are indeed the great humanizer. For many of us, they make life worth living. The artists at Coventry School are helping individuals and families in Cleveland Heights and beyond to cope and connect in these very challenging times that we're all in. Now, more than ever, people of all ages need the arts. Initially, I asked the CHUH board to help the tenants at Coventry School avoid the incredibly damaging, sudden economic upheaval of loss of workplace by granting a stay with a 12-month renewed lease that will enable them to make long-term strategic plans for their organizations. I learned tonight that this is not up to you entirely, but anything you can say to Cleveland Heights will be of great assistance. Secondarily, please consider working collaboratively with the tenants at Coventry and with the city of Cleveland Heights to form a Cleveland Heights Arts and Cultural Center that is permanent and ongoing. This vibrant center could become a place for artists of all ages and interests. Then truly, Cleveland Heights would be a home for the arts. Thank you.
Next, we have Amy Rosenbluth.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Dr. Dixon and members of the school board. My name is Amy Rosenbluth. I live at 3243 Clarendon Road. I'm a resident of Cleveland Heights. I'm a parent of 2 students, one recent grad and one high schooler, and I'm also co-founder and executive director at Lake Erie Inc., a writing space for youth. It seems as though most people in the building hopefully know what we do. We are a creative writing center for youth, and we were welcomed and supported by the school district when we opened our doors 6 years ago. And we were founded 6 years ago. We didn't have a place to run our programs, we just had a dream. And we had some parents who said that they thought their kids might like what we do. And we opened our doors and with an after-school program called the Ink Spot 6 years ago, and that has continued to flourish. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of information. This year, we had 54 elementary school students attend our Ink Spot programs at the Coventry location as well as our Noble site. One of the most powerful things that happens at the Ink Spot is that students come from all schools into one space. So we have students from Noble, Boulevard, Garrity, Fairfax, Roxborough, what am I leaving out? Canterbury. Noble was too long of a bus ride, which is why we worked to secure funding and set up an on-site program at Noble. We also have kids who live in Cleveland Heights who are homeschooled, who attend charter schools and private schools, who come to the Ink Spot. It is not exclusive. What happens in that space is that the children build relationships with other children from other neighborhoods, from other schools, sometimes children from the same school but from different classrooms. We don't, everybody kind of mixes in. The only really distinguishing feature might be their age. The 4th graders are a little annoying to the 6th graders. But other than that, they all get along. So we are an after-school program, but we also serve older children. So we have a teenage program. Again, that is not exclusive to Cleveland Heights students. Although we have many Cleveland Heights students, we also have students from East Cleveland, Warrensville, Shaker Heights, Orange, Lakewood, Rocky River, who come to our programs. And one of the biggest things that happens in those programs is that they have conversations and we see perceptions of one another shift. And I can't explain to you how powerful that is. I've been an educator for 30 years, working mostly with teenagers. And to have teens in a room where they are learning about different teens from different neighborhoods is a really big deal. And sharing authentic experience. Being in the Coventry space is a neutral space. I can't put it any other way. It's safe, it's open, it lets youth be in a place where they feel like they all kind of are on equal ground. It's not one person's school or another person's school. So I just wanted to put that out there. The other numbers I wanted to give you, because we're very proudly doing all of our data for the year, is that in general we served 468 students from all over Cleveland in the Coventry School this year in all kinds of different programs. That means families are bringing their children to the Cleveland Heights neighborhood, to the Coventry School. They're going down to Coventry and grabbing a sub or doing some shopping. Their kids are seeing that this is a pretty cool place. And sometimes it takes an actual experience to open the eyes of somebody who may be coming from an outer suburb to say, oh, this is kind of a cool place, right? So I just wanted to put that out there. As we are preparing right now for our summer programs, and we have a lot of summer programs, I'm doing so with a little bit of anxiety. And I'm doing that because we also need to be preparing for the fall. We recruit families of upcoming 4th and 5th graders for our after-school programs. And what we're offering them is a place to come next year after school where they're not only getting homework support, but they're getting literacy and creative enrichment. It's very hard to know our next move if we are on a month-to-month lease. So I'm asking you, I love the idea of creative placemaking, and I'm all behind that. And the relationships and the partnerships we formed with the other tenants is very powerful for us. But in order for us to function well and to move forward and be clear in what we're doing, we really need a year to know that we are secure in our space. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we have Lee Chilcott, Coventry School.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. My name is Lee Chilcote. I live at 2322 Delamere Drive, directly opposite the Roxville L and Rox Middle, so I'm a little concerned. But I'm here tonight to talk about the Coventry building and the Coventry tenants. I'm a 45-year resident, former member of Cleveland Heights Council, vice mayor of Cleveland Heights Council, and wildly supportive of Coventry and Cleveland Heights as a whole. And I'm coming to you tonight to talk about your decision to dispose of the building, to transfer the building to Cleveland Heights, and the process that is begun. As you know, Cleveland Heights City Council last evening approved the letter of intent, which I think has been signed, and thus the process begins for the transfer of the school. I fully understand the school board's decision to no longer own this building, and I accept that decision. What I don't accept, and what we don't accept on behalf of the tenants, is the pace which this is proceeding. And I told Cleveland Heights City Council last evening that we need to slow down. We need to have a public process. You may recall that you did a study of the Coventry School Committee in 2008, in which that committee, run by Wendling Communications and supported by at least 3 members with whom I've spoken in the last 2 days, firmly determined that this building, the Coventry building, should be an art center. And guess what? You've succeeded. You have a building of 61,000 square feet that is fully occupied by Coventry tenants. You've heard some of them tonight, and you have a good idea of their passion and care for the community in which they live. And whoever said that culture and community are the important things were dead on, because that's exactly what is going to take place here. The community is going to come forward and ask you to support them. The first assurance that you need to make, and the thing that we request, is that you grant an extension of their lease to July 1, 18, that you provide for notice to these tenants, and I think from my experience in development, you could give them 6 months' notice and be safe. And that you work with these tenants so that the possibility of conceiving this building as a permanent art center in the hands of another owner is realized. That's what we are requesting, the tenants are looking for. If that's not possible, the least that you can do is to provide them time, work with them, and not disrupt their businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you. But that's everyone that is asked to give us a statement tonight. It's more than a mouthful. You know, I think that I think, you know, there's a lot of things that have been said that, you know, strike at the heart of what we're about, and I think arts is one of those things. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You know, what we had looked at is just the sheer finances that we're dealing with. I mean, we don't necessarily think that we have to close off any communications. I guess, you know, we will talk as, you know, Jim and I showed up, and I guess there will probably be further conversations. But the thing that we should realize is that right now, that building is a losing proposition from the district standpoint. And that we've got over $1 million in deferred maintenance in that building. So there's a lot of really heavy lifting that has to be done to move us from where we are to that vision of what we're hearing tonight. So I just throw that out there. I don't know if other board members have other things to say, but the numbers just, you know, right now, the numbers just don't work. We don't know how to make those numbers work. So does anybody want to say anything about Coventry?
Yeah, I mean, I think,
Yeah?
I think from a matter of transparency, this came to the board's attention 3 months ago? Is that about right, when we started talking about this? And we basically came to the quick conclusion that the best people to manage this was the city and not us. I mean, we are not in the business to be landlords. Although George has been doing a phenomenal job, we've got great tenants. It is serving a purpose that the community asked for it to be served. But we just can't do it. I mean, we have a $500,000 roof repair?
It's like
Yeah,
$750,000.
So, I mean, there's just a lot of things. So we really think that the city really needs to deal with this. And they're agreeable now that they have a master plan. And from what I understand from a legal perspective, once the lawyers looked at it, a month to month was what they've recommended to us. So we're going based on what our lawyers have spoken to us about, which we really can't go against what they've said. And they are interfacing with city council, or the city's lawyers. I guess what I would ask is there anything that we can do that would be agreeable with the city to honor some of the suggestions that the Coventry tenants have suggested? I mean, it may be risky for the city to agree to go on a year lease, but the reality is, if the city does want to make this an art cultural center of sorts, if everybody leaves, it sort of like negates that ability. So maybe there's an option that we can ask the city, I mean, would you be okay with this without us losing the opportunity to transfer the building to them? I mean, I certainly think it's a look. I mean, but I have to say, when looking at this from a fiscal accountability perspective, this is so much better in the hands of the city.
Well, let me just say that normally, you know, normally when you come up and you speak, we saw sort of a number of people that spoke directly to the Coventry situation. Normally, we don't even respond. We just take it in and we try to digest it and massage it and think about it. I mean, we definitely will think about it, but I don't think we want to get into a back and forth argument over it. I think we've heard you. Let's, you know, and we'll see if we have options. We don't think at this point, when we look at the numbers, that we have a whole lot of options. But I can make, I mean, we will be in touch with the city. I can say that. But that's all I can say at this point. And I don't want to get into the dialogue back and forth, if you don't mind. And if the tenants were to say, hey, we want to have more conversations, we're not gonna not talk with you. We will talk with you. That's something that we will do every time. And even just the conversation about transparency and listening and all that kind of stuff, even though we are flawed as human beings, we try. You know, we try to be responsive and we try to hear what's being said. We don't necessarily make the decisions that everybody's happy with, but we try to listen. Anything else? Okay, we'll move on. We're at the superintendent's report.
Okay.
Dr. Dixon?
Yeah, so we have a resolution authorizing continued membership in Ohio High School Athletic Association for the 2017-18 school year.
So moved.
Any discussion?
This is boilerplate, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the board has a resolution in their hands.
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Okay, approval of the preschool's special education waiver.
I'll take a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Any discussion? Mr. Gaynor?
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Register?
And then we have approval of a field trip, 11th and 12th grade students overnight trip to Orlando.
I'll accept a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
What's HOSA stand for? I don't have my.
It is the,
Say
I'm
that.
not sure what its HOSA stands for, but it's for our clinical health clinic,
Right.
our students. Yeah,
Health occupation.
yeah, health, occupation, and, it's a good question, I should know that.
Is health occupation, what is health occupation
It doesn't state what it is.
science,
I think Brad
something, I
knows.
think.
Brad knows,
Brad, would you
Brad.
like to?
Brad, what is it?
That's our international competition.
Great.
We have 2 first-place winners in there in the international competition down in Florida.
What it stand for?
Right, what does it stand for, is HOSA? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Gaynor?
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
And Mr. President, before I get to the last item on the strategic plan highlights, it was one thing I omitted that I want us to do, our third reading of the science curriculum adoption. So I would like to ask Julie Rathé if she would come up to the podium, please. It's our third and final reading for this adoption.
Good evening. This is our third and final reading for the science adoption for our new curricular materials. So I just wanted to answer any additional questions you might have.
I have one. So so we've had a couple folks contact us about not doing as many field trips to the nature center and using their staff. Is this curriculum going to cut those back, or is that a totally separate issue?
I would say that's a totally separate issue.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Mr. Gaynor, we need a motion to adopt the science curriculum. Huh?
You're
Would
good.
you like, is that your motion?
Yes.
We need
Is that your?
That's
So
the
moved.
motion.
Okay.
Second. He's coughing up a lot.
Do you want to wait for him to come back? I don't want to table it because we have to go through all the untabling and all that.
Would you like to take a 2-minute recess? Is my microphone working? You want to take a recess for a couple minutes? If you want to.
We're going to take a 2-minute recess.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Gaynor, would you call the roll?
Mr. Zucker. We're adopting this is the third reading of the science curriculum adoption.
Yes.
Mr. Podge.
Sorry.
Yes. Mr. Register.
Yes.
Mr. Silverman.
Yes.
Ms. Rucker.
Yes.
So the last thing I wanted to do was just take some time, just a few minutes out to highlight what we've accomplished in this second year of our strategic plan. And just wanted to just bring some of those up on the screen for our audience to see. So it's hard to believe that this has been actually my third year in the district and the second year of implementing our strategic plan. And just as a reminder, this work started with 30-plus community members, students, and staff members, and it was an 8-month process. And in this process, we decided to focus on 5 strategic goals for the next 5 years. So I just want to highlight some of those things that we've done just in year 2. So our strategic goal number 1, and we said we wanted to increase our graduation rates and look at student outcomes. So at graduation, we had 351 students graduated in May. That is exciting. Our graduation rate is continuing to rise. We're exploring college readiness. We have our ECRI program. We implemented this program this year to support our 9th grade students, and it includes teaching and an AVID program. We have our mobile health units at Boulevard and Oxford, along with our telehealth pilot at the high school. So this is Cleveland Clinic's telehealth program, which provides students with a video chat to access to physicians. So we think about technology, we don't have to have our doctors on site. We can actually use that technology to access our physicians. And as we just did tonight, we just finalized adoption of our district statewide science curriculum and the creation of our 5-year career and technical education plan. So not only do we have a 5-year strategic plan, we have a 5-year CTE plan to accompany that. On our strategic plan, Goal 2, educational approach, we know we adopted our 5-year, we have an equity plan. Our new equity team created a 5-year plan for the district, including those rubrics to measure success. We've completed equity training. The training provides regular PD sessions for staff to discuss diversity and cultural competency. We have an equity board policy. This board policy, the board passed this official policy last August, and we're the first of its kind in Northeast Ohio. We have our preschool expansion at Oxford. So the new preschool program opened at Oxford this fall. Garrity and Noble also received 5-year ratings for their preschool programs. And we had our summer academic programs. Education Services providing an array of academic summer offerings to help students across the district. Under Goal 3, we had our Parent Leadership Day that was hosted last Saturday, which we had a parent representative from all of our schools. And the Ohio PTA was on hand and provided training and guidance. And this was under the direct leadership of Lisa Hunt, who we hired as our parent engagement coordinator. We have a State of Our Schools was held at the community center. We took the event to the community partners in the spirit of collaboration. Creation of our Heights School Foundation. This is the first year of transition from the Alumni Foundation, opportunity grants for each school. And all of those, again, you can see the strategic goal that's outlined that aligns to this work that we're doing. Customer service, professional development, communications department provided multiple training sessions throughout the year. And we hosted Cleveland Clinic's Office of Patient Experience Trainers for a full-day session, and all our district administrators, assistants attended. And then we had our migration to Google and Google Classroom. So the migration to Gmail and the G Suite for education further encouraged teachers to use Google Classroom and to engage with students and parents. Under Goal 4, creating a culture of excellence. We have professional development program for staff. Our HR and educational service collaborated to revamp our PD offerings for staff. And we hosted our first ever conference-style PD day in February with more than 50 different sessions for staff to choose from. We created an exit interview protocol. HR created an exit interview process for classified and certified staff, including the checklist for department staff and an online exit survey. We implemented a SunGuard system. HR and finance staff have been trained on a new software with plans to implement next year. Wellness Committee grant. The Wellness Committee received $25,000 grant from Medical Mutual to implement district-wide programs to promote healthy living. In year 2 of our ECOC, this Employee Code of Conduct, we continue to focus on implementing the Employee Code of Conduct and holding our staff to consistent high standards. In our last goal, 5, operational resources, we have our 5-year permanent improvement plans. This plan provides regular maintenance to our building to keep them safe and educationally efficient. We are near completion of our high school project, 2 months away from the completion of the new high school. Green Apple and energy reduction opportunities. Our new energy coach has been working with staff across the district to identify and promote energy saving opportunities and sustainability and cost savings. We have our PAFR, which we published a new 8-page report in April, and plan to publish the report annually alongside our normal CAFR. And Google, again, this wasn't specified, this wasn't a specific action step, but it was a new measure we decided to take to increase collaboration around staff and save the district money. So going to Google is free. We're not paying for those other platforms. So you see, we've been doing a lot of work that was aligned to our strategic goals, and we've outlined for you and for our public to see where those strategic goals were in our plan. So we are not there yet, but we are proud of all the work that we've done in just 2 years. And we will publish this for our community to see as well. So I wanted to provide that for the board.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say that I really appreciate that you presenting this at the board meetings. One of the comments tonight was about the rate of change, and it is difficult when the rate of change is high. But I think this demonstrates a holistic approach to the. And maybe I'm not the poster child to be bringing this up tonight, but to have wellness as one of the items that is part of the strategic plan is something we hadn't really had in the past, at least in my recollection. And it's just an illustration of looking at this district as a whole and what are we trying to do to create a bigger picture and how all those things feed in. So thank you for presenting.
Thank you. Okay. So that ends my report tonight.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I'll accept a motion to approve E1 through 8.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Questions? Mr. Gaynor?
Mr. Posh. Mr. Register.
Yes.
Mr. Silverman.
Yes.
Ms. Ray.
Yes.
Mr. Zucker.
Yes.
I'll accept a motion to approve E9.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? You want to say what this is?
In your board packets last Friday, I included the, that we had settled the contract with monitors.
Right.
So that's what that is.
This is the last of our collective bargaining units?
No.
No, we
Still
still
one
have
more.
one?
Right, yeah, a couple more we're working with. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Gaynor?
Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
I'll accept a motion to approve E10.
So moved.
Second.
And that's in the board members' hands only. Okay. Any questions? Mr. Gaynor?
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Register?
Yes. We want to do one batch. We want to do that batch, so. I'll accept a motion to approve F1, which is basically change order
So moved.
related to the high school.
So moved. Second.
So you're gonna, Doug, you're gonna talk to us a little bit, huh?
Yes, I do. I have a presentation to kind of communicate some of these changes that are approved, just to go ahead and show the status of what we've requested and it's been approved. So there are several different change orders that we have. Okay, thank you. I won't be singing, but I would like you to hear. We have unforeseen conditions. For all of these change orders, just a little background, each of these change orders is made up of several different items. So we're itemizing all of the different bases of change for all of them. We've tried to cluster them together so that we could kind of ease some of the management of the issues, but we are keeping track of all of these individual items. I've tried to just kind of show some photographs of some of the larger items, just for communication purposes. We have 4 unforeseen conditions, design clarifications. We have 7 different change orders. And then we also have credits, which is basically a deletion of the media cafe that was done early on as a value engineering exercise. These first couple of photographs are shown in the auditorium. There was a sound booth that was added. So in the upper left-hand corner, as we got into the construction, we found that there was some existing slab work that needed to be done and some masonry that needed to be removed. So those were removed, and then they were able to go ahead and fill it in with concrete. Another part of change order 129 is we had an exterior door that needed to be infilled. So both the interior and the exterior had to have masonry construction on the outside to match the construction and then fill it inside. Part of change order 132 included in areas A and F stairwells, we found some areas that needed to be abated. So this change order basically was done to go ahead and to add ceiling work and to finish it off. Okay. Some other photographs of unforeseen conditions we had is we have the doghouse where there's an existing louver on the roof. As we built a new roof, we had a couple different areas that the existing louver was too high, or it was too low. So we had to raise it up, so we had to solve a conflict with the existing conditions. The other photograph that we have, this change also includes multiple changes, miscellaneous items in the auditorium. So this is a photograph of some stairs that needed to have some rework done to match the new conditions. So we had some flush finishes. These photographs show the area for elevator in area A, where we had to do masonry work. We had to do some structural work. As after we had done the demolition, some of these areas were exposed. We needed to finish it all off. So this costs were associated with all of these changes. Part of 139 was, as we've seen throughout the project, with it being an existing building with new additions, that there are a lot of atypical areas. So as we go through the design process and we go through and we talk about the change orders with the construction manager, there are several items that the AE team agreed that they were just very atypical conditions. So this change kind of documents those areas, some of the photographs, and part of the areas where it was just very difficult for the construction manager to anticipate that kind of construction, the detailing. They needed to have more input from the architect and the design team to be able to figure out the exact details for some of the conditions that were pretty unique. As a design clarification, 128 had areas in the west entrance where original design had Fen tube that was exposed. As we got into the construction, it was decided that we really wanted to hide all of that. So there's what costs associated with reworking the Fen tube so they could all be hidden. And then I've also attached a photograph of an area with some floor safing that had to be added between the floors from an existing condition. Change order 135 consisted of the south wall of the east atrium. This was for the masonry foundation, for the masonry walls, and for the relocation of some of the stonework at the entrance to really make a nice entrance there. That was a selection to go ahead and proceed with. Some final design clarification items we had is there's some existing access hatches that weren't in alignment with the finished floor, so these had to be reworked, reinstalled, so there's a photograph of that. And then also a large part of the change was between the existing building and the new building, there was a gap, and so there had to be some foundation, some form work, some foundation work, some steel rebar, and some concrete work to go ahead and to tie the building together all at the same level.
So 136 is involving concrete? Is that,
It includes multiple items for 136.
okay, but it was all related to the floor?
No, the 136 is made up, there are several different items. There could be 12 to 15 different items that are made up of that change order.
Okay.
And we have all the documentation back up just for the purposes of this. I've tried to show some of the photographs and try to briefly describe. So this was, the gap area was a pretty large part of the
Okay, that's
value
fine. I
for
was
that.
just trying to figure out why it was costing so much, but
Right, so this.
if it's
this
12
is
items, I
actually-
guess that makes a difference in just.
Yeah, there are several different items that make that up. The gap between the buildings, that was a large part of it.
I'm sorry, since we're voting on it, do you mind if I just help us on a really low-level logic area here? So you're saying it's a gap between the old building and a new building that was put in, right? That's what caused the change order, right?
Yes.
So when you're designing and you're designing to put a new structure next to an old structure, tell me how a gap is, how does that happen?
That is, let me check my notes to see if I can
I mean, you
answer
can
that
get
with
back to
enough
me on that,
detail.
it's fine. And that may be a really ignorant question on my part. I realize I don't have this experience, but I just.
No, it's a very common sense question, and we do take a very good look at all of these. And we were able to decide that this was a discrepancy that couldn't have been anticipated.
Well, If I may, if I can figure out what if the illustrations are what I think they are.
I can't see it that well.
Yeah, I know from doing one of the tours, one of the challenges we had is where we have the science classrooms butting up against a 26 building. The older building isn't necessarily as perfectly level as the new construction is. And so you have, one of the challenges was bridging that gap. It wasn't merely, if you recall, the new construction has the precast concrete slabs that were put on top of the structural steel. So you have that, and so you have that physical structure, and then you have the 26 building. So you have to cover that, or to enclose that, to cover that gulf, if you will. And I think the steel component, one of the challenges they were figuring out was how do you install the steel, because you actually want to connect the two as well, because it gives you that sort of lateral stability. So I think this was, I'm assuming that's part of what this was, because I know from one of the tours we had, that was a challenge that Gilbane was trying to figure out was how do we address that issue? I believe this is probably.
This was part of the steel. So as far as trying to align the floors and everything else, but the steel can be difficult to see because it's hidden behind the structure. Yes.
This particular issue, the steel slab edge. The slab edge structure was designed for a certain distance off the wall, which worked fine for the bulk of the building, but where you had old corridor connections, the corridor connection that was the skin and spandrel structure, which is the outside structure of the building, was taken away as one of the additions. So what happened is where the old openings were, we still had to connect our building to it, but instead of being a gap this big, it was a gap this big, which you can't just take a piece of sheet metal and cantilever it out that far. You had to add structure in that infill, where as part of the addition, the structure, the actual structure, the floor structure of the addition was on addition structure, not supported by the old structure. So when you take away the addition, you take away that infill also. And that was not anticipated to be built that way.
And part of change order 137, this was another item that was a change order that's made up of several different items. Some of the photographs that we've documented are just some of the conditions that needed to be remedied. So these show some openings that needed to be created inside some of the existing walls, some discrepancies with floor elevations. Going backwards. And this last item was actually for a rolling door where we had a detail that needed to have some masonry added for anchoring for the jambs for the door. So it's, all right. Yes. Yep. I think that's all the photographs that I have. If you have any other questions, or we can go into.
Okay, so Eric and I met twice with the high school design team to go over all these change orders. I mean, they showed a lot of evidence on what needed to get done, how it was done. We've got a lot of backup documentation here. A lot of the work was done months ago. It includes things, the fire, I believe, we had to rework some of the things in the auditorium.
Right. There's a lot of auditorium miscellaneous items.
Where in order to get the fire department to buy onto it, they had to go down to Warren to make a presentation apparently, and they had to change some of the way that the doorways worked. So that's all included in these. This brings the total amount of change orders that we have left to approve down to about, what, 2 million?
It's less than that from our projection.
1.4, okay, so there's 6 in this, we've got 1.4 to go.
That's what the projection is now, yes.
Okay. And all these are in the Friedman budget.
Anything else? I guess we should have that mobile clinic come, huh? Okay, we'll send for it. We'll have a new site. Anything else, Jim, Eric?
No, just, I think it goes back to what we said before, where these have been in the works for a long time. It's the owner's reps going back and forth to get in the documentation. And as we were discussing, a gap between the new construction and the original building, That work has been done quite some time ago, but it's in process, going through the process of the paperwork, what have you. So I think obviously the overall majority of these things have been done quite some time ago, but the process, it takes its time, unfortunately. But I think, as Jim mentioned, the key item is it's already in the numbers that we've seen previously from Mr. Friedman.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Gainer.
Yes. Mr. Posh? Yes. Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
All right.
We got.
Okay, Scott.
Update on the progress?
Sure.
I'll keep it quick. I know it's been a long meeting. So we are approaching the finish line, as Dr. Dixon said. Just a little under 2 months till we begin building activation, and a little over 2 months till school starts. So this is one of the finished classrooms. We've got furniture in it. We've got student desks throughout the building. We've got teacher desks coming in next week, and the furniture is on schedule. As you can see, the rooms are finished out. Lights are on. Technology devices are largely installed in the process of being integrated into the school's existing network. This is the kitchen. Kitchen equipment is all here. Final connections are being made. We've got meetings with the Cuyahoga County Board of Health next week to go over final inspections, pre-inspections, I should say, and prepare for final inspections. The auditorium paint and plaster patching is all done. The HVAC work above the floor is done. The below the floor tunnel work, where we're connecting to the old 90-year-old tunnels and repressurizing those with air so that you can have underfloor air, it's in progress. Auditorium seating installation is in progress. Here's another view of the balcony from the stage here. And since this photo's been taken, we've drilled 250 odd holes in the floor for the underfloor air distribution. And the remainder of the seats are going to be installed next week. Here is a view from the Cedarscape, looking at the new building front. I should say the restored old building front. Some of the neater areas in here, I'm going to zoom in on these banisters. You can see we've added some new sandstone in here, new sandstone railings at the new courtyard entrance. Behind this plywood, what you don't see is most of the framing and the new storefront entry doors are in place behind the plywood. Plywood's there for security reasons. And we've got grass germinating. Light poles in, light poles on. Clock was briefly showing the wrong time. They reset it. This is the nearly complete media center. We're having bookcases delivered there next week in preparation for loading them up with the books out of this building. And that's the update. We're bringing it right on schedule. And I apologize for bringing change orders to these meetings each time, but nobody likes change orders. We certainly don't make any money on change orders. They cost us money. They're bad news for everybody, and when you dig into these old buildings, you uncover so many things that jump out at you that aren't documented on the old drawings. It's something we're powering through, along with you.
Okay. I'm going to offer a little bit of an apology because the other items on the business services, we need to probably take them as separate motions. So I'll accept a motion to approve the recommendation under F2. That's the execution of Moody Nolan contract amendment.
So moved.
Okay. Any discussion?
This is the work Moody Nolan did for 5, 6, 7, 8, sir. In the email that Moody Nolan sent back on May 2nd in the packet, there's a reference to an email that Pat O'Brien sent them on April 17th. Can you send that to me and the other board members?
I'll find it.
Okay.
That'd be good.
being billed for the drawings for Mooney Nolan's project on Miles Avenue? There's a slide from one of your projects that keeps getting in the details we get from the drawings. I'm joking. They keep getting it in the materials. There's a slide for your project on Miles in Cleveland, and it keeps appearing in the stack of drawings. So just a heads up. Didn't go over that well. Never mind. Thank you. Excuse me.
I'm gonna stay away from you.
Dude, you're like typhoid Mary.
Okay. So we're good? Any questions? Okay, Mr. Gaynor?
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mr. Posh? Yes. Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
I'll accept a motion to approve F3, declaring certain items surplus and up for auction.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I would think we should table this item because I think it's premature for us to discuss the disposition of materials when we don't know what we're specific plan for the middle schools, as well as I have concerns about spending to buying all new furniture on the middle schools if we're talking about budgetary concerns. So I prefer that we table this until we're a little bit further downfield on the middle schools.
I think Roberts requires us to have a second on that table, right? So, Mr. Silverman is recommending, moving that we table this item.
Well, aren't there two items? There's, in our packet, there's one with the date of June 2nd, 2017, and then there's a memorandum on February 22nd, 2016.
Mr.
between
Pot,
the two.
I apologize. When I created that document, I was using an old one from Microsoft. I transferred over to our Google platform and quickly rushed to it. That was my error. That should be dated 2017.
Okay, so February 22nd,
Yes.
2017, but we're not talking, I mean, we're specifically talking about the desks, the stuff from the middle schools.
Yes. And it includes a bunch of items that were on that list, from excess IT equipment that we are collecting from both middle schools, from the Wiley modulars that we're closing down. It includes equipment that we currently have in the grounds out Milliken that has been sitting there for years. I'm trying to take one swoop at this. It would require hiring an auctioneer to help us dispose of this and get the best economic advantage for us.
But by doing this, we're going to have to spend an estimated amount of essentially.
My recommendation, when speaking with Dr. Dixon, yes, that's my recommendation, is to replace the furniture at both middle schools because it's going to cost us an estimated $350,000 to, I have to go out, put an RFQ out to hire a moving company to come in, take all the equipment out of both buildings and store it for 2 years. And we're, in essence, taking already, in my opinion, some poor condition furniture, storing it and bringing it back.
Has this been in any budget that we've seen?
It was in the original scope of our expectation for the middle schools, and it has been pulled out because of the lack of funds there. My plan would be to take it out of permanent improvement.
Well, I mean, I guess that's sort of the key issue is lack of funds. I mean, we already went and spent more money in the high school for furniture over what our allowance was so we can get all new furniture in the high school. And we questioned that because it was a stretch at the time. This seems, in my opinion, even a bigger stretch. I mean, we have limited PI money. Yeah, I get the fact that the furniture's in not great condition and it's not gonna match with whatever we do, but, you know, I'm finding out that we're now having other options on the table for the middle schools. We're a little unsure what we're gonna do. I mean, I can't see doing this, which then commits us to having to spend 1.2 million in addition for furniture. I mean, I agree with Eric, we need to table this until we know what we're doing.
Well, I want to say something that we don't have a place to store. We have to pay to storage these items, and these items are old, and they shouldn't be moved to any building. So regardless of what we do, we need to put new furniture in these buildings. So it is going to cost them some money. We recognize that. But part of this includes other items, just not the items that's for the middle school. So we lumped all of these pieces together as far as this resolution, includes multiple items. So if we don't move forward with this, then we need to make a decision and say that we're going to hire a moving company to move all the furniture out of both facilities and find a place and pay to store these items for 2 years.
But I have to admit, I'm challenged around this process. Right now, we have the motion to table, but I never heard a second. So I don't know if we should even be discussing this prior to, well, the motion, if we table it, I think we have to vote to table it, and then I don't think there's any real discussion about it. Can you help me?
You can have discussion about it, but you'll have to then, at some point, and then you would move
You have
to
to-
vote and bring it back off the table
And
take a vote on
discuss
the
it.
original motion.
Right, I think you're right, though, that you need a second, then we can discuss it, then we can vote based on the discussion.
Okay. So, anybody second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion. Any further discussion?
To table it.
To table.
To table it, yes.
I mean, I think the discussion whether we table it or we go with it, I mean, it's the same discussion about talking about the furniture. Whether we end up voting no for the resolution or yes to table it, it's.
It could be. I mean, I don't, I mean, you can say whatever you feel about it,
Right,
and everybody else.
Just rules as I understand them. The motion right now is whether or not to table it. The discussion can be used in both areas if you so desire, but the
Correct.
vote is going to be on whether or not to table.
Right.
Got it, right, yeah.
So, Beverly,
So when do we discuss it? So we
we're discussing the table it, the motion on the floor is to table the motion to, say that this furniture is surplus and to put it up for public auction. That was the motion, that now we have a motion to table that motion. So the conversation is around tabling the motion.
Since I made the motion, my reason, as I stated before, and I'll go into more depth, I guess, the concern I have is this, Jim and I sit on a committee that's discussing facilities. This is a memo dated February 22nd, 2017. This is the first I've heard of this, that we were looking to buy all new furniture for the middle schools, which I find distressing, the concept, because to be perfectly frank, if we have a choice, if I'm looking to take money out of the PI budget, which is already strained to the max, and I have a choice between putting new roofs on those two buildings or putting new furniture in, it's going to be for the new roofs. Because the thing I learned a long time ago when Mr. Wolf was in your job was, what's that building schedule? Keep the water out. That's why we're spending money at Roxelle. Keep the water out. I think that any conversation in regard to the furniture of the middle schools needs to be in the larger context, because every 2 weeks I keep getting different material in regard to the middle schools that I've never seen before, and it seems like decisions have been made that, or I shouldn't say decisions have been made, options are being narrowed without, I don't know who's making these options. And so this is, I hate to pick on George on this, but this one, I think this needs to be contained in the context of the overall middle school component. We have a meeting in 3 weeks to talk about this. I'd like to see how that goes before, I hate to put you on this, George, but I think I'd rather wait to know what we're doing big, or have a better sense of big picture before we say, hey, sell everything and commit to spending $1 million, or basically $2 million, or not $2 million, $1.2 million. That's my impetus for this. That's what I have to say.
Well, I would like to know why we can't wait until we have that meeting in 3 weeks. Why do we have to do this right now?
If you decide we can wait, if I need to get a moving company to move and store this, I have to start, again, get an attorney to develop and draft an RFQ, advertise that. I got to get that out for 30 days. I'm looking at trying to affect this sometime in August, September. It's just going to be challenging, and I have to get all of the equipment and items out of both middle schools so that the contractor can start. Now, granted, we have some time to do that, but this alone takes time, and this doesn't, frankly, we're going to be very fortunate to sell any of that furniture, but we have to, by law, do this process before I can even scrap it. Some of the pictures I showed you, there's nobody's going to want that, the desks. There's going to be no school that's interested in some of the post-war era furniture that we still have. And granted, there are some reusable items, and we have a plan to keep the stuff from Roxborough's new tech down in the basement. That's already planned to be taken and stored. Any newer equipment and furniture, we're going to keep and maintain. But this, it's difficult, and the attorney advised me it shouldn't be as specific. It had to be broad. So I didn't have to spend a lot of time going through each room and saying, we want to get rid of these 4 chairs. Well, we can wait.
George, we have 2 different pieces here, right? And that's what you were saying, that we should have combined this. The June 2nd and the February 22nd is the same item, is that correct?
It's in the entire list is multiple items throughout the district.
I'm just talking about in terms of what we're looking at. You talked about the resolution in the June 2nd memo to Dr. Dixon. And then if you pass the donations, there's another resolution, a memorandum, a memo to Dr. Dixon dated February 22nd.
Right, and Mr. I apologize. That was when I pulled this off in a rush to get it done.
That's the same thing.
It's the same exact thing.
Okay.
And it's a combination of a list of equipment from the IT department, from the grounds and trades, and from the buildings themselves that we have sitting. An example is we have a sand blaster that's been sitting in the Milliken barn for the last 16 years I've been here. It's never been used, but could probably be sold at it was valued originally over $10,000. Now, is it worth that now? Probably not, but I'm sure if the gaskets and seals were replaced in it by some company that wanted to buy it, it could be reused. We have no intention of reusing it. This is an example. And it just goes on and on and on. And I listed to the best of my ability the items that were shared with me in our hope to try to salvage them. The volleyball system that was just purchased for the high school that cannot be reused, that would be an item. That, what else do we have over? All the science tables that were purchased for New Tech, that's part of this, to auction those off. We have lockers that are there. This includes all of those.
Okay. Other discussion?
Yeah, because I know Milliken has been a storage place for a very long time.
It is full right now.
So the condition of some of the furniture that we want to move into the middle schools, can you share with us? I mean, is it in bad condition?
Some of the existing that we
Yes.
want to salvage?
Yeah.
It's.
No, because we were talking about moving some of the old desks and things to the school, to the middle school. But my question is, what condition are they in?
They range. The conditions range from as bad as some of the pictures, some of the pictures of the teacher's desk that has stickers all over it. That would be your worst case. Up to, we have some that are actually in very good condition. Probably purchased within the last 5 to 10 years. So you would have to actually, I mean, if you walk from classroom to classroom, you'll see a variety of items. Now, again, we will, if I need to take this out, we'll take out, I will not keep that like the one teacher's desk that you look at. It just should never be stored. It would be crazy to do that. So there will be a lot of things that we just have to determine on its way out the door. It's definitely not worth putting in storage. And at some point, I'll have to make that decision as we pay somebody to come move those items out and store them for us.
George, in your memo from February 22nd, you reference, you received an estimate for a company in regard to moving the furniture and storing off-site. And I know we had a moving consultant in regard to the high school. Is there any documentation I could see in regard to the estimate from the company as well as what we anticipate salvaging of what we currently have?
I asked Mr. O'Brien for that estimate. I can ask him to provide that. I think he actually asked our current GWS based on their walkthrough of the two middle schools and the stuff that they have to move themselves. That was a rough estimate to house it off-site, which we would have to do, because a cheaper cost would be to rent trailers, move the equipment from out on the property and store it for 2 years. But we need to keep the sites clear for construction, staging, and the fields clear for use.
You had mentioned that to me before. Obviously, Roxborough, I know, is, I think, even if we wanted to use the field as a staging area, I think we probably have a legal reason we couldn't. Monticello, we own all of that. So the question I would pose is, I know you had mentioned that the athletic department uses that space. Again, gaming this out further, I know the athletic department may want to use that track and field complex. Conversely, it could be cost effective for us to actually, I hate to say it, use it as a storage site and then have our, like we did for 2 years here, have our teams play somewhere else. I assume we didn't game that out.
There was, again, the minimal estimate, and this is just a rough estimate, I'd actually have to go out and get pricing, was $250,000 to store it on site, up to $350,000 to have them put it in units and store it off-site.
And then, do we have have you produced a copy that you can share with us of how this impacts your PI budget for the next 5 years? Because I know we saw one before where we talked about the capital cost for the next 5 years. How have you prepared a budget that shows that cost, and has it been shared with us?
I'm actually working on updating the permanent improvement plan based on the current model for the middle schools. As we spoke some time ago, I can't remember which board meeting, if we continue down that path, I have to now put Monticello's facade into the next 5 years. I have to put roofs on both those buildings into the next 5 years because they're not being completely taken care of. And Roxborough does have some facade issues. There's windows and doors that'll have to actually be investigated again. So it has to be reworked. I'm reworking it to that effect and would include this into that proposal.
So in effect, to a degree, all of our numbers are in flux then?
They always are for that,
Well, yeah,
that plan,
yeah,
yes, but you're right. They are currently, and this would affect it.
Right.
And that number that I have was a number that we were provided through this process. It could be off, but it's just an estimate.
So again, my desire to have this, not the junk, I shouldn't say junk, the surplus materials at not Coventry, at Milliken, I have no qualms with that. I understand why you want to do it at once. Again, my desire would be for us to act on this when we're a little further downfield, because I think there's a whole host of things in play. Again, a variable, if you're going to spend money on this, it impacts your PI budget, which is impacted by whatever we're doing in regard to the middle schools. So I think, which, in my opinion, we told the voters what we were going to do. So in my opinion, we're better to delay a few weeks until we have a better sense of what we're doing, because I'm getting frustrated with this very piecemeal, bit by bit, which each couple weeks the stuff's different, and I'm getting frustrated with it.
Well, just to say something to that, this, no matter what route the district takes, 5, 6, 7, 8, we do a full renovation of a building, we do partial renovation of a building, we have the same furniture going out and coming back in. And you need the same furniture at some point, no matter what you decide to do. So that was the thought process that I used to get to this point. And as I look through all the classrooms, I have a hard time spending an estimated $350,000 on storing that furniture.
Well, and I get that, and I agree with that. That was, I mean, that was the, you know, Jim and I was like, okay, well, it ends up being silly and logistically. But again, I like to see it in the broader context as opposed to piece by piece. That's.
And I'm working on that plan. I can definitely get the superintendent, they updated.
Well, Karen was trying to get in, so let's let him in for a second.
Thank you. So I have, thanks. It's a constant stream of water coming my way. So a question for Dr. Dixon and then a procedural question. Did I remember correctly, Dr. Dixon, when we talked about this, especially with the high schools in general, that you felt that the furniture in a classroom had a direct effect on the students' attitude toward school? And so in many respects, as much as I can agree with your discussion about the roof and about some of the structural things, if our major business is the students, we need to take into account the importance of what the students see every day. And I think you've always talked about, Eric, you more than anyone else have talked about what people will actually see as differences. There's the behind the wall things that are very important, and we all know, but at the same time there's also the importance of what is it that the students see on a day-to-day basis, and what message do we send the students by giving them a hodgepodge of furniture. Now, having said that, I did understand that some things are in better condition, but let's just be at least honest with ourselves of what we're trading here. And we've all discussed the fact that most school board decisions are between bad and worse, not between good and bad. So I get that. Procedurally, I have a question for you. Ron, maybe you can help me. Our understanding of what would happen in this vote, and I don't want to get back into this big voting thing we said before, but is if we voted to not table it right now, the next vote that we would go back to would be.
We go back to the motion.
Yes or no. So the only possible outcomes are yes, we'll allow them to put it to auction, or no, we won't put it to auction. And so it's
That's
going
correct.
to be,
If we don't, if we vote not to table it, that's correct.
Okay, I just want to be sure I had that in my head. George, excuse me. I'm sorry. You said, sure, we can wait. Do you, this is putting you on the spot, and I apologize for that. What if, as Eric suggested, it's a few weeks or the next board meeting? Let's just be honest. What are the costs associated with that? And think carefully before answering.
I don't have to, there's no cost associated with a 3-week delay. This is something that has been on my desk, that when I had the opportunity, and Dr. Dixon and I have been talking about this for the last few weeks, and everything coming together at this time, if we do want to try to be successful selling any furniture to any school district throughout the country, I'd have to engage an auctioneer. This is just too big for me to handle, like I just did with the laptops. I did that myself and tried to do the Wiley one. But there's a company that I have talked to and engaged in what it would look like to do that. A 3-week, it's just, if anything, it's going to hurt the potential for other districts that may really want something that we have. We would be out of the market just because they're getting it someplace else.
And would I be incorrect in saying that there are at least opportunity costs associated with delaying a decision because it puts something else yet again on the back burner with a series of other things as we get closer to opening a high school and having to make other decisions regarding middle schools and everything else? Is that correct?
At some point, I am going to have to do one thing or another. We're going to be forced into clearing out Roxborough Middle School and Monticello. It has to happen. Right now, I have no place to put it. So I either have to sell it or relocate it and store it for 2 years.
I think to think about it in terms of opportunities and costs might be the way to think about it. Because what I think really is that there is a point at which we need to take action. We need to move the furniture. The closer we get to that point, the higher the cost is going to be. in my opinion. I mean, we don't know that for sure, but to the extent that we have some time to game it out and get bids, some people are not, if they only got 6 weeks to try to figure it out, they're, thinking that a bid process itself might take a week, so, we're down to the 4 to 5 week range. So anyway, I think there's some costs related to just not, the window that you're in to move it. So I think that cost would be real. That's me. And I guess I should declare my intentions here too. I would have a tendency in this regard to trust George and his understanding of these issues in terms of what we need to do. I haven't gone through and inspected each individual piece of furniture to say, well, yeah, I could keep that chair, but, I'm going to have to trash that one. I just don't have that kind of sense, and I don't necessarily need that. I need to be able to trust George that he's making a judgment about what is possible. So my intention is to vote against the tabling.
I trust George completely. I mean, you've done a great job from everything that I've seen. And I know you're sort of just thrown into this middle school piece. But I go back to words that you said, that our PI budget is strained, it's thin. We are already, these are my words and not yours, robbing Peter to pay Paul just to get stuff done. And here we have a $1.2 million surprise that is not in any budgets. It's just thrown at us. And we're committing ourselves to spending around this kind of money. We have $30 million left on the middle school, so it's now less $1.2 million. I mean, I know when I moved into my first house, the amount of furniture, well, first of all, there wasn't a lot of furniture, okay? It was late grandmother furniture. I mean, there's a point to what we could afford and what we can't afford. Yeah, we want a great environment for our students, no question. But if we take money out of the PI budget for this, I mean, we're going to have to find money. I mean, we're going to have to put another issue on the ballot sometime. And we have so much uncertainty right now with these buildings that are being thrown at us and where to store them. I mean, one of the last proposals we saw was making this building a middle school, okay, so if you're going to have another empty middle school, put the furniture in there for a while until we figure things out. But it seems like we're committing ourselves. And waiting 3 weeks? I mean, if we go ahead and do this, I mean, we've already been told, what's the rush? We could easily wait 3 weeks. I got to tell you, it smells funny to ramrod something like this through and only getting, if this was dated February 22nd and we knew this was a liability, why the board didn't know about this, that's fiscal irresponsibility.
And I think I mentioned it. That was an error in I pulled up an old memo to transfer, and when I gave it to Dr. Dixon, it should be dated 2 days ago.
Okay. Then I take that back.
Okay.
But we still knew we had to do this.
It was in the original estimate for when we renovate the middle schools. Yes, there was a line item that said, we want new furniture.
Exactly.
And that was pulled out.
In the Friedman budget?
Pardon?
In the Friedman budget, because the Friedman budget had $30 million left, plus contingency on part of.
No, not in the original scope of what we were expecting to be able to accomplish.
Yeah, okay, but
the Friedman
we've been
budget-
going by, that budget has been evolving and evolving and evolving for a lot of good reasons. But the latest iteration that we knew of as a board didn't include this number.
Yeah, I don't recall looking at the numbers we got from Turner. I got to keep my Turner numbers, if memory serves. I don't recall seeing a line item for furniture in that.
I can share it with you. I
Yeah,
have
so,
it.
yeah, I mean, again, that's the issue, and,
Again, it's just an estimate, and all it is for a student desk and teacher's desk.
Well, I'll throw another, I'm not saying another, not wrench, but another question. Okay, we're talking about the furniture at the two middle schools. Well, we got a whole building here full of furniture. What's the game plan for that furniture? Which I would assume is probably at least from the rooms I've walked through, seems to be better looking furniture than we had at the high school before. Maybe it's just the best of the best. I guess, what's the plan for that furniture? Because,
And the reason this looks somewhat better is we tried to salvage
Right,
from the
right.
old,
Oh,
from the
right.
old high school, what was the better furniture to use.
so I guess going, if I gain that out further, if I have ostensibly 3 buildings of furniture, and we have 2 buildings we're going back to, the question I would pose is, shouldn't we be looking at what can we use from this building and the 2 middle schools to develop a furniture plan, as opposed to just, I'm flummoxed by the piecemealness as opposed to everything as a continuum. That's where my angst is coming from. And it's not really, I feel bad picking on you, George, because you know I like you. But I'm trying to
Don't feel
figure,
bad.
I just wait 3 weeks and get a little further downfield, and then we pull the trigger on this one way or the other.
Beverly?
The high school will be opening. We have, the window is getting shorter and shorter. That's just my take, too. I mean, if we take, well, that's my take.
Anything else? Yes, sir.
I want to sort of be careful about this, but I realize sometimes we get, and I've done it a million times myself, so I'm going to blame me. You get in the heat of a discussion, but Jim, I just have to take exception to saying when things smell funny, because I think people hear that a certain way. And to me, nothing smells funny about this at all. I completely disagree with you about that. I understand your points, and I think your points are well taken. I think saying something that suggests, I don't think there's any malfeasance, there's no malintent, there's nothing. If things weren't planned out completely, that's one thing. But I think saying something smells funny carries with a different connotation. I think I would urge you to be really cautious with the words you use, because I don't feel that way. Let me just put it that way. You're absolutely entitled to your feelings. I do not feel that way in any way, shape, or form.
I respect your opinion. My opinion is solely based on this fact. This is a number. It's coming to us as a surprise. It's unbudgeted. We're asked to commit to this right now. We can't wait 3 weeks when we don't even know what we're doing at the middle schools. Apparently, that whole decision's on the table. That smells funny. My personal opinion, of course.
Yeah,
Not the
yeah,
board's. I know I'm an individual when I say that. I get that.
I think that we're at a point that nothing has been decided. I think that's why we're having a conversation. So, go ahead,
Well, no,
Eric.
well, yes and no. I mean, the problem I'm having, and this goes to, I'm mispronouncing it, but Robert Cairo did a book called The Power Broker about Robert Moses in New York. And Robert Moses, what he did frequently was what they called stake driving, where he'd say the project was going to cost X number of dollars, the state legislature budgets the dollars, they put stakes in the ground, and then, oh, it's going to cost more money, and then the legislature would have to come up with the money, because otherwise the money that was spent, they would look foolish. It's a tough book to get through. It's a huge book. It's a great book. But the lesson I learned from that book is, and this is why I'm uncomfortable, is you have to see the full plan, because if you do it piecemeal, it's problematic, and that's why all I'm saying is, let's wait 3 weeks, get a little further downfield, and then I hate to say it, more likely than not, when I do a return on investment and cost-benefit analysis, yeah, you know what? It's probably going to be the most cost-effective option, much to my chagrin. But I'd like to see it in the context of the middle school plan and the PI budget for 5 years. Because what we do in the middle schools has an impact on the PI budget. They're all interconnected. I'd rather see them, how the different scenarios game out, as opposed to, oh, well, now that you're committed to this, now you got to do that. That's all I'm saying.
Anything else?
Bless you.
Mr. Gaynor?
So can we clarify on what we're voting on, just so
Voting
everybody gets it?
We're voting on the motion to table. That was made by Mr. Silverman and seconded by Mr. Mr. Register.
No.
Mr. Silverman.
Yes.
Ms. Wright.
No, can I pull my second back?
Don't do that to me.
That could be a point of order, but I think I don't think you can get there until you vote, after you vote, right? I mean,
Well, and your second only puts it up for a vote. It
Right,
doesn't really.
right. It just-
mean- You're right. That's- Mr. Zucker?
No.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
So the motion fails, 3-2 to table.
Okay. So that puts us back on the original motion, which is F3, declaring that used surplus equipment are no longer needed and we want to put them up for public auction. Do we have a second for that motion?
Mr. Zucker moved, Ms. Wright second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Gaynor?
Mr. Posh?
No.
Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
No.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Okay. The motion carries. Okay, that gets us to F4, which is accepting certain donations, and I believe it's about 9 or 10 of them. Actually, 9 donations to various schools or scholarships. So I'll accept a motion to accept those donations.
So moved.
Second, okay. Any discussion?
Thank you very much.
Mr. Gaynor?
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Register?
Yes. Okay, that gets us to F5, which is a resolution authorizing amendment to the owner's rep contract with PMC. I'll accept a motion to approve that.
So moved.
In second,
Second.
any discussion, observations, questions, commentary?
We've discussed this,
Yes.
because it was a contract legal issue. I think we need to mention what we're doing. Can someone present that?
George, do you have the details on this, or is it you, Scott?
Not here with me, I don't. It was a reduction in the,
Well, yeah,
overall reduction in the fee.
It's pretty
yeah, I don't
For the
remember exactly
continuing
what the
work.
numbers are. Huh? I was discussing with the administration that document is not actually in our packet. Do people want to go back and have that packet available, that document available as we make this vote? Is that what people want, or what?
We've already discussed, I think, at length.
Right.
The fact that the work is less, it's just less work, so
Right.
PMC is gonna charge us less money. I mean, it's pretty simple. That's all the explanation I was looking for. We've already seen the budget impact of it. I was just
Yeah,
looking
we'll
for some,
back one
yeah, I was just
$1.5
looking
million.
for some clarity because it's a public record. We're voting on something. People should know what we're voting on.
Right, but you know what you're voting on. So there's something that we didn't, that you need additional information?
No, I know what we're voting on.
No,
I
what he
will.
wanted is that people would be
Yeah, I
aware.
mean, it's,
We actually
public
got
record.
into a situation where we thought the scope of work for our owner's rep, PMC, could be reduced. So we actually reduced that contract in agreement with them, in collaboration with them. So we're going to save ourselves a little over $1 million. Anything else? Mr. Gaynor?
Ms. Wright? Mr. Zucker? Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
I'll accept the motion to approve F6.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is the final piece of Delisle roof. It's the flat deck that holds all the equipment in the center of it. It was, though, determined by the consultant the worst in the district, and this will finish off that roof. It actually helps us get rid of some of the anomalies that are also on that roof, some towers, something that's been there for years, we just never removed, equipment that we haven't used. So in this process, they'll remove the old equipment, and we get a new roof, and it'll finish off the Delisle Option Center.
Mr. Gainer?
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Okay, we're ready for G1 and 2. I'll accept the motion to approve it.
So moved.
Second.
Mr.
Very
King.
quickly, we've got our monthly financial statements. We have the 5-year forecast as well. There's no change in this month's 5-year forecast from the one previous. The one in July should change, assuming we get the books closed by the time that first meeting happens. We'll drop the actual numbers in the forecast, and we'll see a change in that 5-year forecast. And item 2 is something that the auditors require us to do, which is to approve a new mileage rate for reimbursement for employees each year.
That doesn't coincide with the calendar year.
It doesn't, and that's one of the things that we're working on in negotiations to try to line those up.
But it's based on IRS standards?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, Mr. Gainer?
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Then that gets us to the board president's report. And I'll just say one quick thing. We had planned a financial forum for Thursday night, and we were actually invited, I think, 16 other districts to come and participate with us. And I believe that right now, the response hadn't been that good, and Mr. Gainer seems to think that it's the time of the year and that kind of thing. So we're going to put that off until later and try to poll the boards and try to reschedule that sometime in the future. Now, there was also some ability to tour the high school as well. So we will be working further on opportunities to have tours at the high school.
Well, so the tour for Thursday's been canceled? Is that-
Yeah.
Well, I guess the question is, Mr. Calendar, can I schedule a tour to visit the building on Thursday, because I had it on my calendar?
Well, yeah, we have.
Well, in that case, I
yeah,
mean-
we have another group that's going
This
to do a tour
Thursday
Thursday as well, so.
at 5 o'clock?
Okay.
Well, I guess we could, anybody that wants to do it could still do it.
All right.
Should we just plan on people, who can do it? Let me ask you that. Let me ask that.
Yeah, maybe she could coordinate through someone.
Is it board members? Who can do it Thursday?
I was going on Thursday.
Hmm?
It's on my calendar.
It's not right on your
Mine
calendar,
too,
so
so
if you want to continue, if you want to still go as board members, I would say still go at 5 o'clock.
Okay. So who do we need to coordinate with?
Brad is on.
So everybody that is planning on going
meet Brad
and
at
bringing or whatever, let Brad know.
Right.
Got it. Okay?
And-
Good enough?
And PPE is?
Personal protective equipment.
Thank you.
Yeah, as long as you've been in this construction business.
I'm not in the business, I'm on the board.
Oh, okay. Okay, anything else? Unfinished business?
Well, I got some stuff, but I don't know if it's new business, old business, but I don't know. Cal, you got? Yeah, you go.
Well,
No, I don't
the-
have
the-
to. Oh,
the- Is it unfinished, or is it
I
new?
don't know. I mean, I guess it's sort of, maybe it's in between. It's,
Okay, well, let's put it, and after we do unfinished business, which we're about to finish, halfway through it, let's say unknown business.
okay.
Okay, Eric?
Thank you. Okay, I've got questions. I already grilled Mr. Petcack before. He answered my questions on the logs at the Roxborough Playground and the boom cranes at Roxval as well. Also, just an FYI, the Cedar Lee merchants contacted me about the little circle at the corner of Cedar and Lee that we have. It was plantings before. Because of all the construction, they were like, hey, is there anything you can do? So I mentioned to Mr. Petcack to see if there was anything we could do to make it look pretty. I don't think we have the time or dollars to make it look really nice, so if we can just do something to make it not look terrible. We received an email in regard to the swimming pool at the high school because it's a very complex opening project, and we are now down one administrative principal and one athletic director, and the pool is a high-profile community element. Who in our org chart is responsible for taking care of all of those issues?
What type of issues? Just send them to me.
Oh, there's a whole laundry list of stuff that has to get done. I mean, Jim was the one who's,
Yeah, just send it to me
I
Okay.
did send that to you.
yeah.
recently.
Yes.
Okay, resend it.
And I just want to remind, I want to, you can, I don't know, Brad can tell the design team, the samples they came up with for the security cameras, that seems to be looking, the colors seem to be working well. I want to make sure for my own edification, because it's in regard to the pool, we are not doing any type of security gates right now.
Correct.
Okay.
We decided to wait, remember, and live in the
Well, yeah,
building for you.
okay. I just want to make sure I'll keep my opinions to myself on that one. You mentioned actually, we were talking about tours. Mr. Wortman, I guess we had talked previously, I guess the question I would pose, I know we had talked about it in a Gilbane meeting with Gilbane. I'm trying to understand, we were looking to do more than just the elected officials in August. We were looking to have more niche and focus groups. So I guess the question would be, well, Gilbane's not here, our ability to do that on a regular basis. I think that, again, I'm going to reiterate, I think we need to take advantage of the opening with niche focus groups as opposed to just doing it as a burden. And also, I'm not sure where we are on, if the super can speak to the high school principal, like, are we, for the high school principal position that we're looking to fill, are we doing that from our normal HR posting, or we're not doing a search or nothing, are we?
Right, and I put it in your, it should have been in your packet, the update on all the positions that we have, that we're hiring for. It should have been in your Friday's packet.
I saw the list. My question, I know, because I think somebody was saying something, I don't know if it was, I think it was probably the last time, I think.
Okay.
They were saying, oh, they conducted this big search and cost a lot of money. I was like, no, we didn't do that. My question was, we're doing our normal.
Yeah, we're doing a normal search. We've not paid any.
Right, that's-
Yeah,
okay.
we've not paid any
Gotcha.
entity to, but we have several positions. And Jim, to your point, if you want to copy the athletic director's still on staff until the end of this month.
He was
To
already
your
copied on this information, and
Okay.
I don't think anything was done
Okay.
done towards
Yeah,
it.
okay. So, so we did not do any search or
Okay,
pay any
that's-
search firm for any of the positions that we have posted.
Okay. And then my question would be for the super. We received a decision tree last weekend, and then 2 weeks before, we received a report from Van Uken, or VAA Architects. I don't want to mispronounce it. I would be curious to see, I'd like to know who developed the decision tree, and I'm not familiar with when when the board said, hey, let's do this VAA whole thing. I've got tabs and tabs and tabs. I'm curious to know who's on the team who's making the decisions for the decision tree.
The decision tree was given to you that's for your knowledge,
Okay.
to let you know as a board that these are going to be key decisions that you need to make.
Well, the only thing is, it seems to have decisions already made for what the decisions are. So that's
No.
why I was curious to who had crafted the decision
We
tree.
crafted that.
I'd like to know, because we keep saying the team. I'm very curious to know who's on the team that's making, who's on the team that is the team that we're referencing. I don't need to know right now, I'd like to know.
Okay. So this was provided in your board
Oh, yeah,
packet?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So just make sure, anytime I provide anything in your board packet, if you have a question, you can always send me an email.
Okay. Well, I know.
So we don't have to make these public. I mean, you
Right.
can always just send me a comment email and say, Talisa, I just need some clarification on something that you sent.
I
That's
understand.
why I send them in your board
Right.
packet.
I get it.
So, well, I just want to make sure that we're having conversations about clarity that you need, and we're not coming public, because it looks like we're not.
Oh, no, I just.
Okay, just look like we're not on the same page.
No,
So
I
I just want to make sure for our public that we are working in concert. And if you have some questions, just pick up the phone or email me and say, Talisa, I need some clarification about something that I put in your packet.
Okay. I'd
Thank
like,
you.
yeah, I just, you know, it's an issue I articulated previously with my colleagues in the past, and we have another one up in July, is that we only meet once or twice, two, maybe three times a month. We're very limited what we can discuss in executive session,
Right.
public session. I've always stated repeatedly, I'm more than happy to have more meetings to have us converse more. I prefer to have it, the 7 of us, as a
Right.
group, as opposed to multiple individual conversations. So
Right.
that's
But-
why I bring it up.
Thank you. That's a good point, but I just want to make sure, we know that right now there are a lot of rumors around this middle school project. I mean, we have people that are stating we're closing Roxborough, we're doing something to Wiley. All I've done is responded to the board about options for us to explore. That's all I've done. And I've asked experts to provide that information for us. We've not made any decisions. I've not asked you to make any decisions. All I've asked you to do is consider these options from the professionals.
Okay.
And then we plan next steps of how the decisions will be made. This is what this decision tree does. It says to you, if we continue on the path with 2 middle schools, here's some decisions that need to be made. If we decide to go a different path and look at 5, 6, 7, 8, here's some decisions that we need to make within the timelines. It just kind of, as you state all the time, gaming out some scenarios so you know what decisions that we need to make. I've not made any decisions. To you, Adam, we've not made any decisions that we're closing Roxborough. These are all rumors. All I've asked people to do is respond, our professionals, to respond to the needs of the board and just give the board some options based on the budgets that we have. That's all I've asked the professionals to do.
And what my recommendation or advice to the staff and the team, many of the folks, for those, because when we look at Plan C, one of the things that, when we look at Plan C, the notorious Plan C, one of the failings of fielding there was we did a lot of homework, we did a lot of research, we came up with 3 plans, and this is the one we picked for you. And when they did that, that did not sit well with the community. So speaking to, ironically, Angel, who's not a fan of mine, Angel and I probably agree on this, is that the ability for us to gain traction and support within the public for things, particularly big picture things, we need to present, even if it's not a viable scenario or option, it needs to be explained why it wasn't a viable option. I was in a meeting the other day, folks were saying, why don't you just build one big middle school? And Alan Wilkinson was in the audience. He was always pushing for that. We know previously why we can't do that. So even when we're looking at this, we need to present any scenario that's possible, and if it's not even an option, it needs to be presented why it's not an option, because that gives greater legitimacy to whatever the options are.
Right. And I agree to extent, and I think if the professionals haven't studied those options, I think we're doing a disservice to present those options for the community to consider. So for example, you and I have discussed various options to explore. One of those options, I said, Eric, my team have not explored this particular option. I've not seen I don't know of another school district that has this grade span as an option. I do not feel comfortable bringing that option to the public and saying, consider this, because then my team would have to talk about that option to some detail and with proficiency. And I don't think that's fair for my team to do, just to have another option to explore for our community. That's not the path that I'm choosing to take. What I am saying, as I've stated before, here's an option that has been vetted by the community before. So if we want to explore that particular option again, 5, 6, 7, 8, using these schools, what would that look like? Let's have a community process that we're planning on Thursday with community. We have a community member, we have a board member that's coming to the planning along with our staff to look at what would that community process look like. How do we have our professionals also looking at transportation, looking at various parts of this, so that when we present this on June 27th, we're presenting a coherent plan that we've had vetted through multiple lenses.
There's a meeting this Thursday on this. If you could tell, I'm very curious to know who's.
There's a planning meeting, Eric, I've stated that to you. What I've asked to use the board members in various ways. One, I met with you and said to Eric, what are some of the scenarios? I've asked Jim to participate in a community piece. I had a conversation with Beverly to get her thoughts. Had a conversation with Ron and with Cal. I've asked various board members to use their expertise in this process, and I think I like that decision. And so Jim has agreed to assist along with Krista Hawthorne from Reaching Heights, along with my team, to kind of look at what will the June 27th event look like? How do we engage the public on these scenarios? The scenarios that you helped create, remember?
We discussed 4, I forgot 5. In my opinion, there's 9, but most of those are completely non-viable to begin with. And the only reason I mentioned it, and the reason why there's a lot of scenarios, is that when we were doing the Lake Facilities Committee and the Buildings Committee on that, we gamed out literally dozens of scenarios, which is why, I'll fly through them, because I did this whole exercise 4 years ago. So that's why, I'm very adamant that we need to present, whatever the decision is, it needs to be solid, thought out, and it lists the pros and cons.
I agree, and that's what we will provide on the 27th. And that's one of the reasons why I strongly believe that we did not need to put that 4th option, because that's something that our team has not explored, and we wouldn't be proficient in even explaining that to our community.
I am grateful to be part of the public process thinking, because I think that's really important. Just as Cal reminded me and disagreed with me earlier, I just want to remind the board about when different board, okay? Some of the same people, but different board, when Coventry was closed, and how awful that experience was, and how big of a distraction was, and how that process, maybe from a fiscal perspective, worked out okay for us. But we lost a board president. She lost her election. We were sued. The people that essentially sued us got put on the board because the whole process smelled funny. And that's what we have to prevent, okay? And every time there's a little bit of a surprise, it just makes it feel a little less insecure as a board member, and I think as a community member. And there's a couple surprises that there was one tonight that I was blindsided about. I was also, and I told you this when we had breakfast and we talked about it. We had a board facilities committee with Eric and I, and all of a sudden we're finding out that we're not being included in any of the middle school piece, which is important because people in this community know that Eric and I are on this board facility committee, and all of a sudden someone besides the board makes the decision that we're not going to be part of the middle school process. So, I mean, we have some time to fix this, and I see what you're doing by including us, and that's good, okay? I get that, and I'm, again, happy to be part of the public process. Really happy someone from Reaching Heights, sort of outside of the system, is involved. I think that's a really critical component. Eric, you've been throwing tons of scenarios at us, okay? You're good at this, and I'm glad some of those are being looked at. I mean, I was in a meeting with you, Dr. Dixon, and you said,
man, the first three, we need to look at that. And the fourth one can't work. Fine, I get that. But one of the things we talk about buildings is this is a neighborhood value, for example. It's not a value of what you and your staff think about when you're thinking about the best ways to educate a kid, okay? The buildings are something more than that. And it all plays together. But it's in the best interest of an educator to have one big building. You put everybody in there. It's equity. It's easy. It's the best way to efficiently teach somebody. That's one extreme. You know, the other extreme is, you know, our community has said we want neighborhood schools. We want a lot of neighborhood schools. Every community, every neighborhood needs a school. Well, we know we can't afford that. We just know we can't afford that. There's some in between. And we have to figure this out with the community. It's not necessarily just from one perspective.
Right. You know, thank you, but I would like to say, I'm sorry, Ron, you know, this process has caused the community to be on edge in various ways. And it's uncomfortable for me and my team. I've tried to be as open about my ideas and my thoughts as I could be. I did not in any way try to push you and Eric out of the middle school process. What I simply stated to you both, that I wanted you to focus on the high school process because the high school process was so large. It was a big project. I wanted to focus on the high school project, and I think I've stated that to both of you. And I've asked the team, you know, we have a lot of change orders. There was a lot happening in the building. It was overwhelming for us to digest all the things that happened with the high school. So it wasn't that I was purposely pushing any of you out of the middle school process. I wanted us to focus on the high school process, and thought that we would have some time to still kind of get in the mix of the middle school process, but the high school process was much larger. But I don't want us as a board, as a team, for people to see that we are, yes, we're going to have some discord. Yes, we're not going to always be on the same page. But I know that our goal is to make sure that we have good facilities for our community. That's the common goal. I know that's what we all want. So how do we make sure that we do that on the same page? And that we're all on one accord. I think it's going to be important because the community is going to look for us to stand as one board. Not Talisa, not Jim, not Eric's agenda, not Ron's. It's one board. And how do we make decisions for our community that reflect that we're a unified board? And that's what I want. And we're going to have discord, I know. That's just part of the process. We're not going to always agree. But so if there's something that you're uncomfortable with, look in your board packets. Call me up and say, Talisa, this is a surprise. I didn't see this coming. I'm not sure about this. And then we won't have to publicly say that we feel uncomfortable with something and that it was a surprise when I try to make sure we're putting things in your board packet in advance so there are no surprises the day of the board meeting. So if we can do that and just digest the materials, I know it's overwhelming, a lot of things that we put in those board packets, but please take some time and look at it, read it, digest it, and send me an email or call me to say I'm not comfortable with something before it comes up tonight. Because a lot of this could be prevented because I immediately take it off and meet with my team and bring it up at another time when you're all feeling comfortable with it.
Well, I have a pretty strong reaction to this conversation, and it's something like this. I think it's okay for us to disagree, and I think part of the challenge in having a board and developing a team is to figure out we do have disagreements, but I think at the same time we can't be in a position where we are beating up on each other because we disagree. I think what we have to do is we have to be willing to work our way through our disagreements till we get to the point that we all that we can have a common understanding. Now, that doesn't always mean that we're going to have a 5-0 vote, and we don't need to have a 5-0 vote. But I think we always need to be in a position to treat each other with respect and dignity. That's what I think. And, you know, there seems to be a little bit of edge here that we might, I was thinking, well, gee, you know, maybe we need to get into a room and just kind of work our way through this, because it seems to point to maybe we don't quite trust each other, or maybe we're trying to figure out how, you know, why we have to do certain things. And Talisa said something that I think is okay. I think it's okay for us to have conversations and disagree publicly. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think when we back away from each other and not engage with each other, I think that's where our problem comes in. We've got to be willing to engage and work our way through, because we do come from different places. We do have different ideas. You know, you know, we oftentimes hear that the community says X, Y, Z. Every time I hear that, I'm saying, okay, the community. And then I wonder, if I go north of Mayfield, am I going to hear the same thing that the community has said? You know, so I always try to figure out, what do we mean when we say the community? And most times I can figure out where it might be coming from, but I think our job is to try, we're elected at large. Our job is to try to get a spirit and sense of community and try to teach us how we work together and how we collaborate. I think that's key and essential to us sitting on this board. So anyway, I bristle a little bit when I hear some of these conversations. Okay, new business. Board committee reports?
I have one. Last night was the first annual meeting of the Heights Schools Foundation. It was a nice event. Just a couple of highlights from that meeting. One, I think everyone got it in their packet. I'm pretty sure I got it in my packet. This was the first the Heights. It's the magazine of the Heights Schools Foundation. You should look at it. I mean, it has some highlights of some of our graduates from different years, and gives just an overview. I got to be honest. Do you remember how frequently are they putting this out? I don't have my glasses on. Every 2 months? Twice a year? Twice a year, thank you. So I apologize for not knowing that. But anyway, it's a nice publication. Just from the scholarship meeting this year, the Heights Schools Foundation gave out 16 scholarships that were awarded. And we wanted to mention that the Heights Schools Foundation will be partnering with the district for the grand opening of the high school in September. And then finally, board will be getting quarterly reports. In fact, we've gotten one actually from the foundation. The next one should be out sometime in July. So if you have other questions, we can get into it. I did not bring more materials with me. I apologize, but it's a nice event. That's all I've got, Brent.
Okay. Well, I guess I got one. I am our legislative liaison. And I don't know if everybody is getting the updates from OSBA about the various legislation that's out there, but there's some pieces of legislation that we should pay attention to. One has to do with the whole privatization movement that's centered around expanding the voucher program. And there's a piece of legislation, I think it's Senate Bill 85, that is talking about expanding Ed Choice vouchers to 400% of poverty, which is about $98,000 for a family of 4. So, you know, it looks like, and what that basically says is that everybody, and we know that there are not a whole lot of people that are making over 90-some $1,000s a year, and it might just be 96, so give or take a couple of thousand. But if we start thinking about that, then it's obvious that we're gonna have to put ourselves in a position to really deal with these things, because my sense of it is that it will not pass this year, but I don't think it's going away. I think we'll be fighting this battle for a while. And I also, just in conjunction with that, I think the people who do private schools have done a better job, have done a job that maybe we are not in a position to do. But if you look at the ads on TV, the schools that are using vouchers call themselves public education. So when we talk about public education, it's real clear that those private institutions consider themselves public. And by all rights, I guess they could. But if you look at the ads and you look at the organization related to it, they are highly organized. So there's a real question about what do we have once this is this grows and grows and grows like it's growing now. And I do believe that public education, as we understood it and as it was decided in the Constitution, a system of common schools, I think that's under attack, and we could very easily see that begin to evaporate. So anyway. And if you're not getting the legislative updates, let me know, because I'll make sure that happens. Anything else? Correspondences and announcements? What about adjournment? Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Mr. Gaynor?
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Mr. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Silverman?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.